Hey everybody, what's happening? This is Blair Johnson with the Badass Records podcast, welcoming you in for another episode. This week my guest is Vanessa Kramer, and you can find her stuff at Vanessa Kramer Author on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. You can also check out her website, vanessakramerauthor.com. She's got 4 books out there available for purchase. They are Great Divide, Great Desolation, My Mother's Spirit, and Temporarily Forever. You can find them on Amazon and elsewhere. She's also involved in the super cool KC Bookbeat publication here. This is the May 2025 issue. Print copies are obviously available. They've got a website and they are on Instagram, so make sure to give them a peek and a follow if you're so inclined. Socials for this podcast are Twitter and Instagram. The website's badassrecordspodcast.com. If you need to holler at me, it's badassrecordspodcast@gmail.com. You can find episodes on the site, and you can stream them where you get your podcasts and music, or you can view them on YouTube. I do believe that is all I've got for you this week. Appreciate you stopping by. Hope you enjoy the show. But thank you guys for coming over. I appreciate it. I think this will wind up being episode 171 of Badass Records podcast. And thank you very much for being here, Vanessa Kramer. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So let's see. I think I first stumbled across you on Threads. But you appear to have at Vanessa Kramer Author for all the social media handles, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Yes.
Plus vanessakramerauthor.com for your site.
Yes.
Right? So, handsome website. I like. Did you have somebody do it? Did you do it yourself?
My husband did it.
Okay. Very nice. Very sleek. Did I see that there's not a for sale tab or a merch or a books?
Not through the website.
Not through the website.
If you click on the books, like on the link for the books, it'll take you to where you can buy them.
Okay, cool. Before we jump into that, tell me, if you would, what each of those do. So we were talking just a second ago about the identities of towns and cities. The 4 primary socials that you're using there, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, do they feel like they have an identity to you, or do you use them for different things, or is it everything's the same on each platform? You know how sometimes somebody will post and it just the same thing goes. Tell me about your approach.
So I've found that different things work better on different social medias. Some of the videos that I post on TikTok do okay on TikTok, but then they do really well on Instagram. Sometimes they do horrible on Instagram, but really well on TikTok.
You can't figure out.
The algorithm is ever changing, and once you have it figured out, it's already changed 5 different times.
Right.
So,
right.
I really love Threads because it's just kind of like shower thoughts, random.
Yep.
Like, it kind of reminds me of, and I'm aging myself with this, but like MySpace and Zanga, even, where you kind of.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going like really old school with that one, but where you just kind of like post just a random out there thing, and most of the time a lot of people will be like, yeah, totally. Like, we had a conversation one time about who we thought the gayest Disney villain is, and it had thousands of comments.
Who's we?
Me and my husband.
On TikTok?
No, just an evening in bed just talking. Me and him talk about the most random stuff.
And you posted this on Threads.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because there was a big like debate. Who do you think the gayest Disney villain is?
Okay.
And
what were the two camps ultimately?
I thought Scar.
Okay. Interesting.
I can't remember what you said. I can't remember what yours was either, but everybody said no to yours. Yeah. But then, like, everybody started talking about it, and I was like, oh, Hades makes sense. And then Governor Radcliffe from Pocahontas definitely makes sense.
You guys are a little more versed in the Disney characters.
Yeah, we grew up with all the Disney.
Okay, nice.
The 90s Disney stuff.
Sure. That's funny. Threads is interesting. I haven't spent a ton of time, so I think the algorithm on my end is like slow and identityless, but it does seem to be whenever I get on, lots of ladies with lots of opinions.
Yes.
And so I feel like I'm tiptoeing there a little bit. But still, and then there's, I just saw this the other day. And if I opened it right now, I'd probably find it again. But there's, I think, bots to a large degree. If the one post that I saw was a gal, in theory. Who knows if the picture matches the? But it's like, is anybody actually in Missouri? I'm looking for someone to hang and bang.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, what's this all? And I mean, for minute after all the way back to January, and it was like several times a day. So I went back to that original post, and I was like, I do have to appreciate your long game here. I mean, and they liked it or loved whatever. But so I mean, it's obviously not immune to some of the toxicity that
for sure
happens elsewhere. I took Facebook off my phone this week, which is, I've done it before, but this time is probably 2 or 3 years overdue. Because every time I get on, I'm just like, this is not. It doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
Anyway. Instagram, I still like quite a bit. It's gotten to the point where, like, if I would never hit the search bar in public, because it's literally just the whole thing is like girls and like maybe a hockey post or some other, and it's just like, good grief, man. Like,
yeah.
I didn't mean for that to be. And then TikTok, I'm starting to see a sprinkling of people that I used to see all the time, and they like went away. Have you experienced this?
Yeah, TikTok's been really weird. Like one of my friends who has like a book talk type account, should be in my algorithm like crazy, because we're not only friends, but we have similar like themes to our TikToks. She never shows up on my For You
Weird.
page.
You follow her?
Yeah.
See,
yeah, I have to go to her page to see like
wow.
what she's posted.
I feel like the way that it's working right now, like the people whose content I enjoy the most, I don't follow them. It just gives it to me. I feel like if you follow them, then it starts hitting you with the backlog, and it's like you can burn out on the person a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you been following Sailing with Phoenix? This dude that supposedly, and it's probably pinned, a year ago, he's sitting in the parking lot of his job in his car, and he's like, I hate this so much. I'm going to quit, sell everything, and buy a boat and sail to Hawaii. He's in Oregon, and he did. A year later, he's like, done, and so he's been like, don't get me started on the ocean. Like, I'm absolutely terrified of it. But just bought a sailboat, and with his cat, just sailed from Oregon to, I mean, day 2, he had a knockdown. I'm like, are you out of your goddamn mind? Like,
That's
this
crazy.
is, yeah, but I think, and Anderson Cooper's interviewed him remotely, and I think he made it. But I've been enjoying him, and then there's a cat named, his handle is like Calabrese 1976. Have you seen him?
I mean, if it's a cat TikTok Probably.
It's not. It's a dude. He's got a big, bushy head of hair and a scraggly beard, and he's in Wisconsin, and he just, with his face in the camera, just tells little anecdotes that all are like super sweet and positive.
Okay.
But like those two dudes, I'm like, I'm not gonna push the plus because they'll just be in there all the time, and I'm getting, I don't know. Anyway, it's a wild.
You're really into that one German or Austrian guy.
Yeah, I think he's Austrian, and yeah, it's the same thing. I don't follow him, but he just will randomly come up on my For You page, and he's the most delightful human being.
Really?
Like, he's just like in the mountains, usually has like a walking stick. He's like a real life Disney prince looking guy. I mean, like conventionally handsome. And then he starts talking, and he's like, "Oh, you guys, look at this waterfall behind me! Oh, wow." Like he's so delightful.
That's awesome. But I mean, each of the 4 platforms are serving purposes for you personally and professionally.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, we're in a day and age where you have to be an influencer if you want to be an author, because that's where the marketing is, especially with Book Talk being as popular as it is.
Tell me a little bit about Book Talk. I know Flash Talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly women.
Okay.
And it's mostly romance, because that's what's always popular. The romance genre of books is going to always be.
Since I was at the grocery store with my mom.
Yeah.
Who's buying these? This is crazy. This is a big shelf full of.
Yeah, with Fabio on the front of them.
Well, I mean, I'm a 70s baby, so
okay,
even earlier than that. But yes.
Yeah, and now it's more on the romantic-y side. So a lot of women are reading books about, 20-something-year-old woman who's in love with like a 300-year-old guy with bat wings. I don't personally read the genre, so I don't understand it, but I do know that's what's popular. So, being an author on TikTok, I kind of hope that I'll get in the algorithm somehow. But what's funny is my book stuff doesn't get nearly as good a engagement as my stupid shit stuff that I post.
I mean, funny, but like, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Feels like how that goes.
Yeah. My book stuff will at most get like 1,000 views, but then I have a video that has hit like 75,000 views.
Dang.
Where because this actually happened. Someone told me that I looked like someone from Stranger Things. And I was
really?
like Millie Bobby Brown. And it's the pizza guy with like the long hair that's like the stoner.
I only watched season 1.
Yeah. His name's Argyle.
Okay.
And yes, I kind of resemble him slightly, but I was just like, cool, thank you. So like that's what the video is talking about that. And yeah, it has done way better than any of my book related content.
I write books too.
Yeah.
They're right there.
Right.
Well, cool. So at Vanessa Kramer author on those 4 primary platforms, and then 4 books just hammered out in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow. Great Divide, the Great Series, book 1 from 23,
yes.
Right? And then Great Desolation, Great Series 2 from 24, and then also My Mother's Spirit from 2024. I don't know how you're putting out 2 books in the same year. And then Temporarily Forever from a couple months ago?
Yes.
What?
So My Mother's Spirit was originally published when I was 19.
Okay.
I can't, let's see, 2009. And thank you. published.
We should say that Kyle is on the couch, but off cam and off mic.
Yes.
So shouts out to Kyle.
Yeah, whatever I can't remember,
Yeah.
he can for me. So I originally published My Mother's Spirit through a vanity publisher, which means I gave them $2,000 and they handed me a really shitty amateur-looking book.
I'm sorry, shitty for 2000?
Yeah, like you get a photo stock image for your cover. There's no editing. There's no marketing. There's no.
I'd be mad if I spent $200 on that and that was the result.
Yeah.
Did you know?
I'm at the time that was what I thought the only option was for getting a published book, and I really just wanted to be a published author that badly that they were like, yeah, we can even do a payment plan if you can't put $2,000 down all at once. And I was like, oh, awesome. And it obviously didn't go anywhere, and I kind of just like sat on it for years. And then when I got back into writing, I was like, I really want that book back. Like, I really care about that book. It was my first book.
By back, you mean?
The rights. So I contacted the...
in giving them $2,000, you also handed that over?
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You live and learn.
That hurts my heart.
Everything's a learning experience.
Sure.
But so after a month of back and forth emails of asking them, like, can you please take it down so I can have it back? And they were like, well, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. And they were like, well, if you do that and you decide that you want to republish with us in the future, you have to pay again. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to, but yeah, I'm aware. And they're like, well, are you sure this is what you want to do? We can even like add on this package for this amount when it's normally this amount. And I'm like, no, I don't want to add to it. I want it taken away from your publishing company. And so they finally,
that they were even responsive.
It took a while. Like every time.
Delete.
Yeah.
What's she gonna do?
Yeah. Every time I emailed them, it took about 3 or 4 days to hear back from them. And, you know, like I said, like the first couple times it was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, yes, please just do this. And they finally did. And they sent me over the paper to sign. So I printed it out, signed it, scanned it back, sent it to them. And they were like, okay, well, this is final. And I was like, yeah, good, thank you. And so I finally got it back.
I can't wait for us to be final is our correspondence.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so I finally got it back. I went through it, had it edited. I changed up the story quite a bit just because at 19, my relationship with my mom was not super great, and it's very obvious in this book.
Okay.
And now it's very much a healed relationship.
Oh, shit.
So I kind of healed the story as well.
Did she read it?
Yeah. She read the
Were
first
you guys
version.
Talking when it was out? Were you communicating? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're a lot better than we used to be, and communication is a lot better than it used to be. And I think my mom finally respects me as like a human being, like my own person now, and not just like what she wants me to be. And so I think a lot of that shows in the new version of My Mother's Spirit, and she reread the newest version, and she was like, wow, this is...
What was the initial reaction?
To the newer one?
No, to when the first version prior to the healing, when she read it.
Of course you made the mom the bad guy.
Oh, that seems tame.
Yeah.
Like not nasty or aggressive.
She kind of knew that a lot of it was based on our relationship at the time, and there were things in the book that she was like, well, you didn't have to put that in the book. I'm like, nobody knows that it was based off of something you did. Yeah. So, but she knew, and so it was upsetting to her, and she liked the story, but she never liked how the mom was portrayed. And in this one, I do a lot better of a job of showing generational trauma.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And how it affects different characters in the book, not just the main character. So I think, like I said, like it was really healing to be able to go back through it. Because when I got it back and I read through it, I was like, this is very obviously done by a very hurt, very angry young woman.
Meaning you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
not your editor. Your editor didn't affect the body that much.
Yeah.
Dang, I don't even remember writing that.
Yeah, but I didn't want the story to be that anymore. I wanted it to be a hurt person who grew from being hurt.
Cool. So if this were a reality that one could do this and one could look up generational trauma in a dictionary, what do you suppose the definition would be? I know it's a big, giant umbrella that has nuance and variety in it, but for you, what does it mean?
I think it's someone who experiences trauma, and instead of getting help and, like, you know, God forbid, therapy, which I know in older generations is just unheard of, but I think instead of growing from your trauma and healing from it, you try and do whatever you can to make sure it doesn't happen to your offspring, and by doing so, you cause the exact same trauma because you're so worried about it not happening to your son or daughter.
It sounds like you're describing my parenting.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would hope that it gets better with every generation, and you try your best to undo some of the things that your parents have done.
Yeah.
I am very guilty of, you know, back in the day saying, well, when I'm a parent, I'm never going to do that. And then
yeah,
here we are. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it.
Why does my teenager have such an attitude?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
But, you know, I come from a line of women who have been abused. I come from a line of divorces. And I think generations before me think that the solution to that is to keep finding a man that will fix it.
Oh, God.
Yeah. My grandma has been married several times, and unfortunately, she's in the mindset that she can't be happy if she's alone.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how much of that there is out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't love being alone. What is this, 25? I'm 6 years divorce, or some mix of separation and divorce. And I've, you know, had some relationships, but it's like, I know there are plenty of people out there that are busier than I am and have more going on, but my plate feels full. And to make room for you, I got to like smush some stuff to the side. So don't be, you know, don't bring a bunch of bullshit. If if you do, it's like, you know, I'd rather be alone than and whatever. But there are so many folks out there that are just packing up that misery and hurt and whatever, and moving it from one relationship to the next. And I'm like, why do you think the results are going to be different?
Right.
I mean, if you look at the world through the TikTok lens, the collection of dudes out there is super shitty. So like, you got to find a super good one, and also like all of your stuff's going to just work. I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of, like, I'll be scrolling on TikTok, and there's a lot of men that do this thing where, like, I'll score your profile picture, and I'm just like, why does that feel necessary on the men's side, but the women engage? And I'm like, right. Why do you feel the need to have this stranger tell you anything about you when they don't know anything except for what you look like?
So from my side, where I see the dudes mostly is in the comments. Mm-hmm. And most of what I get given is gals showing off their OOTD, or just like, you know, they might as well say, spend as much time as you want looking at my body, because that's the purpose of this post. And it's rampant. I mean, there's so much of it. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to watch, like most of the dudes I think probably that are on TikTok are doing. But it's like, I don't like that we got to this place where, whatever. I mean, it's crazy.
So my husband and I have this ongoing saying, and we say it with love to each other, but women are crazy and men are stupid. And it's
We're gonna have to have a little talk about that after we wrap.
And it's not like anything like to be offensive against one sex or the other, but it's just that it goes to that thing of women use sex to get love and men use love to get sex. And it's just, I think, like a natural biological thing where women want affection and they don't know how to get that from men. And so they're going to do what they think men want to see from them. And then men are going to do the opposite. They're going to say like, oh, I think you're so pretty.
Right.
And the women are going to be like, oh, he likes me. And it's just going to be that constant division of what exactly are you needing. Because I think it boils down to, and not to get like super deep, but like you've got to love yourself first. And if you don't have self-love, and going back to the generational trauma, I think a lot of that is the problem. If you don't like yourself or love yourself and you just rely on someone else to love you, then there's always going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. From the ground up. I mean, if there were a blind taste test version or, whatever, the person that's not loving themselves doesn't really know at all what the version of themselves would look like if they did love themselves first and then put they would probably be surprised.
Yep.
So I don't want to like hang out in this any more than you're comfortable with, but what did the arc of that healing look like?
Therapy.
For
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. None for mom?
No.
Okay.
She tells me regularly, what do I need a therapist for? I have you. I was forced to grow up sooner than I should have.
Okay. Are there siblings?
Nope. I'm an only child.
Okay.
When my parents got divorced, I took the brunt of my mom reacting to the divorce. She laid in bed for like weeks, not wanting to go to work, not wanting to eat. And I kind of...
You're what age when this goes down?
9 to 10.
Okay.
And actually, so my dad left the week before Christmas.
Dang.
He came home for Christmas just to kind of put on the facade of like everything's good. And then a week after Christmas, my mom and I got evicted from our house because my mom found out that my dad had been pocketing rent money so he could move out. And that was very traumatic. We lived in Northeast at the time. So
Kansas City?
Yes, Kansas City.
Okay.
And so not in a super great area. So we had 2 men come over and just start throwing all of our shit on the curb.
Really?
Yeah.
How did they get in?
The landlord.
Just
Yep.
Go to it, fellas.
Yep. They haven't been paying their rent. We got to get all their stuff out. And luckily
there was no paper, nothing.
My mom had no idea it was happening because my dad was in charge of all the bill stuff.
Sure.
And luckily, my parents lived 2 doors down from us at the time, so my mom was just like yelling at me, grab whatever you can and take it over to grandma's. And like in the time that it took us to try and get our stuff over to my grandparents' house, there were people stopping on the curb, grabbing our stuff and taking off with it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So like in the span of 2 weeks, my dad has moved out and...
What was his motivation?
He didn't want to be a family man anymore.
Okay.
My dad is very immature.
Are you guys in nothing?
No contact.
Okay.
I have officially decided no contact because every time I've tried.
As an adult?
Yeah, I never feel good and it puts a strain on my marriage.
That sucks.
My husband is not a fan because he knows so many stories about my dad that he just... I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think people are capable of changing if they want to, but if they don't want to, they're never going to. And it's not worth feeling miserable. I'm tired of trying to impress someone who's never going to say that they're proud of me or From the get-go, he was disappointed that I wasn't a boy when I was born. So
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but like,
but here's the thing. I'm to a point, I'm very much like,
Part of the healing.
yeah, I'm very much a, like, I can laugh at my own misery and like tell jokes about it just because it's how I cope.
I wanted a boy. I have 3 younger sisters, but we didn't find out for either kid. But the minute that needle switched over into like, oh, we are pregnant, there is a baby, I was terrified for health. Just like, I'm sorry I ever wanted a boy. I just wanted, you know what I mean? Like, so to just all the way through to delivery, or maybe finding out if they found out ahead of time, and to just be bummed.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, my dad was like so sure I was going to be a boy. He had a name picked out that like it was definitely going to be Kelly Ryan, which thank God I wasn't a boy, because Kelly is really mean to do to a boy, in my opinion. My dad's very like proud of being Irish, which
Okay.
whatever. Come to find out, he's actually not very much Irish.
That tracks.
Yeah, I grew up thinking I was Native American from my mom's side and Irish from my dad's side, and I am not Native American at all, and just like a sprinkle of Irish. So
Interesting.
all the like festivals that we would go to, thinking that we were like a part of that culture, we were not.
You got to fill that identity gap with something.
Yes,
right?
yes. And that's also like a part of my journey of like liking myself for who I am, because again, like growing up thinking like I'm Irish and Native American, and telling everybody, oh, I have this complexion because I'm Native American, and come to find out I'm Scottish and Welsh and a little Norwegian and no Native American at all.
Right.
So coming to terms with that was rough, just because you think you're something for most of your life, and then you have to kind of like
backpedal.
And self-reflect on like all the Native American festivals that we would go to.
Oh dang, we're putting in some work here.
Yeah, and come to find out, like, nope, not at all.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, this is always a very tangential thing, but so I interrupted you saying in a 2-week period, Dad leaves, you guys get evicted, and I'm not sure.
We stayed with my grandparents for a tiny bit, and then my stepdad came into the picture very quickly.
Oh, okay. Well, is he cool?
He is now. He's a really good grandfather to our boys.
Cool.
Me and him did not get along. He doesn't have kids of his own, never wanted kids. So I think that adjustment of I didn't want another guy that soon, and he didn't want a kid, there was like a lot of tension. At one point, he wanted to send me off somewhere because he didn't want me living with them. And then
do you think he ever like gained any ground conversationally with your mom in that regard, or was it always just a him thing and she was like, we're not doing that?
She always felt caught between us, and that was a big part of our relationship getting so strained. Is, now as a mom especially, I'm like, how do you choose anybody over your kid?
Yeah.
The second someone is meeting my kid, whether it's an adult or someone at their school, I'm like, I don't like that person. I don't know who this kid is that's talking to you like that, but I immediately don't like them. So like, I can't wrap my head around the idea of wanting to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't like my kid. But as a grown adult who tries to see where my mom is coming from, I'm not mad at her about it.
Sure.
She was scared and alone, and at the same time we got to.
I'll fuck you if you help me with those two things.
Right. Yeah. Like, her car got repoed too at the same time. So
Jiminy Christmas.
It was like we didn't have a house. She didn't have a car. She didn't have a way to get to work. So
wow.
This guy comes along who is willing to help her, and she took the opportunity. And luckily, he has grown over the years. Me and him have had a lot of conversations apologizing to each other because
that's cool.
I was also kind of a shitty teenager with a bad attitude that hated the world and hated my family.
With real reason.
Yeah.
You're not a teenager that wants for nothing, that has had very little struggle, that has that attitude. You get to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there was a time where we were living in a shack. I mean, it was not even a house. It was a shack. I didn't have a bedroom. I slept on the couch. My mom.
Is still Northland?
This is when we first moved to Independence.
Okay.
When I was going into 6th grade. And my mom and stepdad slept on an air mattress on the floor. The bathroom had holes in the wall, and so the carpet would get wet, and toadstools would come up out of the carpet. We had mice, we had snakes, we had wolf spiders get into the house. I mean, it was just such a dingy living situation. And so I went from being this like well taken care of, very spoiled private school kid to now I was like the poor stinky kid at school.
Damn.
I went to school with fleas one time.
How does your ego handle that adjustment?
It was hard. I mean, middle school's already hard for kids.
Yeah.
I weep for my oldest because, he's in middle school now and he's starting to get picked on for being short or like having a little bit of a mustache starting or having a little bit of a unibrow. And I always tell him, like, at least you're a boy and you have those. Like, I had those in middle school too, being a girl, and the teasing is just relentless. I mean, kids are so mean. Yeah, and that's what we always tell him. Like, no matter if you're tall or you don't have any facial hair or you don't have pimples, they will find something to make fun of you for.
It can be like, great thing. You can be really wealthy with always the prettiest girlfriend. Make fun of you for that. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, what? It's crazy. So sorry, the healing process with mom.
So I started going to therapy. I originally started therapy because my marriage was doing bad at the time.
Okay. Hey, you guys, you're still here.
Yeah. We were doing the separated but living together, so staying in separate rooms in the house. And we didn't want to separate, so we tried whatever we could to make it work. And in the process, we did the one thing that you're not supposed to do when you're separated. And from that, we had our youngest. And so after he was born, we were like, okay, we kind of need to try harder to make this work because now we have 2 kids in the picture and I don't want to get divorced and I don't want to get divorced. So we need to like make an effort. And a lot of the issues that we had in the beginning was about communication. And I think communication is the most important thing in any relationship, marriage, friendship.
Phrase right there. Everybody says it. Everybody knows it. But
you have to actually do it. And it's a constant practice. I mean, people think that you get married and then...
We communicated, but I told you in 2007.
It's just cruising after that. And it's not... You have to stay uncomfortable in your relationship. Otherwise, it's going to get soggy and stale.
Stay uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Tell me more, please.
I think once you get comfortable and you don't feel like you have to try anymore, then the other person doesn't feel seen or wanted. There was a time where, he wanted to play video games nonstop, and I took that as he wants to do something else besides spend time with me. And that's a very unfair assumption. Now it's, he's playing a video game. This is perfect because I need to get writing done. Oh. Or I want to go hang out with my friends and he wants to stay home and play video games or whatever else he wants to do. I don't want to make it sound like that's all he ever does.
Right.
He has hobbies.
Video game guy? Yeah.
He has other hobbies too. But I took it, and I think a lot of that comes from generational trauma where like he wants to do something that doesn't involve me. I must be doing something wrong. He doesn't want to hang out with me all the time. And Now I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you all the time. And that's fine, because then we can go our separate ways
Sure.
and do what we're doing. And then we have something to talk about. Because if we're not together all the time, or if we are together all the time, we already know like what we're doing and, you know, what's going on and stuff. But if we spend time apart and then come back together, then we have those conversations. And the conversations will be anywhere from, like I said, like who's the gayest Disney villain to like, let's talk about our dead grandparents that we wish were still alive.
Right? I can't believe you don't permanently pronounce Scar with a lisp after that conversation. Yeah, I brought this big load of baggage into adulthood of like my only thing was whenever, like, no rush, but when I find my person, we're together and we don't go through divorce. And then I met my ex, whose folks, she's the oldest of, she has a younger sister, and her folks, like, she was easy and her little sister was not. So she got a whole ton of not feeling seen or loved or cared. They're great. Like, they live 2 blocks over, and she lives at the end of the block. But there's just an unscratched itch for many, many years. And, there was, I'm not, it's not like retired or in the rear view, but, if I could push a button tomorrow and have my dream job, it would be to write. Right. So like, when we were both in grad school, when we were engaged, I was doing the creative writing program at UMKC. She was en route to becoming a therapist, which is real fun, being married to one of those. Because guess whose shit you're working on a lot if you're the therapist. So I've had pockets where, like, the absolute goal is to like be in bed by 8:30. Hopefully asleep by 9, so that at 3:30 I can get up and make coffee and have my butt in the chair for 2 hours before writing. And I've had a handful of blog projects and side things, and all of which has always been visible digitally. And after quite some time doing that, and being married and kids and work and school, all this stuff, like, she would never read my stuff, but carried around that you don't want to spend time with me kind of thing. And it was like we were just missing, just big swing. And I don't even know if we were swinging, but we were missing, right? And then you drift into, I guess, keeping yourself uncomfortable. Not doing that, it's real easy to land in roommate land.
Yes.
We were never separate, rooms or anything like that. But looking back, and I think she would agree to whatever level, the trying, the communicating, the being okay with you do that while I do this, and some salve in each of those wounds would have gone along. It's fine that it didn't. Like, we're really good co-parents.
That's good.
We have 4, I think, transitions a week. And I mean, whatever. But yeah, generational trauma, I think, has trickled from her stuff and my stuff into our kids a little bit. And that's okay, because they're really good kids. It's unfortunate, like, it's like watching an accident happen when you could push a button to make it stop. Just like, anyway. So you are in this spot with mom, and you get there because of stuff's kind of sucky for a good little bit as a younger person, and then that just carries into young adulthood. Or
yeah, as much as I tried to say at the time, that it didn't. I think it did. When Kyle and I first got together, I was a carbon copy of my mom in the worst ways. She's got a really bad habit of when we're out in public and like a server or like a cashier does something, she won't say something to them. She'll just out loud be like, well, I wish the service here was faster. Or, well, I wish they would have had this thing wasn't on sale when it's clearly with the sale items.
We put that in the cringe folder, right?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't realize that I did that too. and it's funny because my mom would do it and I'd be like, shut up, like, stop. But
he's like,
yeah.
You too.
Yeah. And so my mom's name is Arliss.
Arlis.
S. Two S's.
Two S's,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Like the little boy in Old Yeller.
Oh,
and there used to be an HBO show named Arliss. That's all I know. I don't know where the name comes from.
Interesting.
My grandma's kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so who knows where the name came from. But it got to a point where, like, I was noticing I would do something, and my husband would be like, okay, Arliss.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want to twist it while it's
yeah.
in there?
Yeah. And I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, yeah, your mom does that exact same thing, and you hate it when she does that. So, like, why do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I am the product of my upbringing. And I, unfortunately, even though I only saw my dad every other weekend, I picked up a lot of his bad habits too. And I had to completely rewire myself because I was who my mom, my dad, and my grandma, because my grandma helped raise me, I was who they molded me to be. And I wasn't my own person. And Kyle kind of gave me the safe space to figure that out. Even though he had already married me, he was willing to sit there patiently while I figured out my own shit.
See, that's not stupid. That's smart. I mean, whatever.
I had to go through a lot of stupid.
Okay, fair.
And I mean, I did the same with him because we got married super young. Because
that's a little stupid.
Yeah, I got married because I wasn't allowed to move out until I got married.
Per Arliss?
Yeah.
Damn.
I had a curfew until we got married.
You're in your 20s?
Yeah, I got married at 21, like a couple of days, like a week after I turned 21.
I mean, that's actually not stupid then if it opens the door to the next phase that you don't want to be doing this anymore.
Right.
That makes sense.
But it was really unfair to Kyle that I used him to get that freedom.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way getting out from under her thumb.
You guys have been through some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. At the same time that we were dealing with our marital problems, I had accidentally become addicted to prescription drugs. My doctor gave me antidepressants, and I took one, and then one wasn't enough, and then I started taking two at a time, and that wasn't enough. And by the time I went to the doctor to get weaned off of them, I was taking like 6 at a time and drinking a lot on top of it just because.
Sounds like a pretty good buzz.
Yeah.
I mean, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy now because I've always been like the kid that was afraid to take ibuprofen.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Like, what was this prescription?
Citalopram and lorazepam.
Okay.
I know that they like have similar names to them, but yeah, one was like a take every day. And then the other one
with mental stuff.
Yeah. Because I basically went to the doctor and I was like, I think I have depression. And she was like, why do you think that? And I'm like, I've had thoughts about hurting myself. And she was like, okay, well, I'll write you a prescription. And I mean, that was literally it. And
do you feel like things changed immediately when you started taking it? Did your perspective shift? Did you feel better? Like,
I didn't feel better. I didn't feel anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And
that sounds scary.
Yeah. And what's funny is part of the reason why I wanted to take medication is I have really bad anxiety with driving. I don't have my driver's license still. I get in a car even as a passenger and immediately I know I'm going to die.
How you doing over there?
I'm the chauffeur.
Right, but I mean, I'm sure you felt stress because of that on the road.
Sometimes.
I'm a gasper. I gasp.
That's you get that when you enter the world as a female. That you're not unique there.
And he's an amazing driver. It has nothing to do with him not making me feel safe. It's everyone else.
Oh,
like
dude.
when we drive to Colorado and it's just this stretch of highway with no one else on the road, I feel so at ease. But every time we get on I-70,
I was going to say, how about St. Louis?
I am like holding on to the door handle or like rocking in my seat or doing something, and he's always like, it's fine, like we're fine. And I'm like, did you see how close they were to us? They almost came over on us. And
I gotta tell you, shit is bananas out there right now. I mean,
people are such scary drivers.
I turned 50 last year, and was driving like before I by the time I could get my permit, I could drive a stick already. And I went to Pittsburgh State for a year out of high school and was home all the time. A 2-hour shot. Moved to Colorado after that year. Was out there for undergrad and a total of like 6-ish years. Back and forth. I have no idea how many times. And in a relationship with somebody in St. Louis, I've a long history of trying to catch one Blues game every season. And there is nothing in all of my years of driving that compares to right now. And it's every day. I get on 71 and you see a flash and it's somebody just doing it, like with no if I die, fuck it.
Yeah, we had someone
holding
do
my
that
phone,
on the way
not
here.
on my seatbelt, like
in the rain, like just one lane to another, zooming in and out of cars, and I'm just like, I've never driven over 40 miles an hour anyways. So like the fact that there are people that literally have zero fucks when they're on the road driving.
Yeah.
Not even
to the other end too. Somebody just doing 5 miles an hour. Like I got to finish reading this email. It's like you're in traffic.
Yeah, the slow people are just as dangerous as the fast people.
I know.
So come to find out, the whole driving thing, when I started going to therapy, is a combination of my flavor of OCD, which gives me intrusive thoughts, and PTSD of my upbringing, because I had a mom who constantly told me, if you leave the house, you'll die. Like, everything is dangerous. Yeah. Something bad is going to happen to you if you leave me. You're only safe if you're with me. I can keep you safe. I ended up not going to any out-of-state colleges because of my mom. My great aunts, who were so kind and generous to me, gave me the option of Chicago, Syracuse, and Florida because they had residencies in those 3 states. And they're like, you can officially move to live with me and get in-state tuition, and I'll help you pay for college. And my mom, once again, stayed in bed for days on end and wouldn't eat and got super depressed about me leaving her.
Wait a minute. She has done this other times since Dad left?
Yeah.
Oh.
Usually involving me leaving. And so I was like, okay, I won't go to those 3 places because they're too far away. I'll go to KU. And that was too far for her. Like KU, because my mom didn't get her license until she was 30, and she doesn't drive hardly at all because she doesn't care to know her way around. So she doesn't get comfortable with unknown roads. So the idea of me going to Lawrence was out of the question because she wasn't going to drive to Lawrence. That's way too far. So then I got accepted to Park University, and I was like, wait, Parkville is not that far. It's right outside of like where my grandparents lived. So like,
do they have on-campus residency?
Yes.
Okay.
And I even got as far as getting my roommate assigned. And it was like this alt girl with like all these piercings, and she was a smoker. And I was like, okay, I get to like be with someone who is like so opposite of me and get to like experience different people. And my mom was like, no, absolutely not. You're not going to be like rooming with this like pierced freak weirdo. And
I wish the pool of roommate candidates would have been bigger.
right. And so I ended up not even like going to park, and like I pulled
dang.
out of my like what's it called, enrollment, and I ended up going to community college. And to this day, every time it gets brought up, my mom's like, well, but if you hadn't, you wouldn't have met your husband and had your babies. So it all worked out.
Convenient.
Yeah. But I had plans to like study abroad. I wanted to go to Italy. Like I wanted to be one of those college girls that went to Italy and made a bunch of mistakes with a bunch of Italian guys. You know what I mean? Like I wanted.
You know, Kyle's still in the room, right?
He.
Oh, there we go. Close enough. Get on in here.
Yeah, like I wanted to be a kid and make mistakes and learn from them. And so what ended up happening was I got married super young, and then ended up being a 20-something-year-old who made mistakes and did really stupid stuff. And it's not that I blame my mom for it, but it's definitely like every time I want to tell my kids no, or that's not a good idea because you might get hurt, that's all I can think about now is like, yeah, something bad can happen to them, but what if they experience this thing and it's
You're
like the best thing?
From this root of anxiety
Yes.
kinds of.
I mean, I constantly have anxiety. I constantly go to worst case scenario. But
I mean, you go out and do like readings and publicity stuff, right?
yes.
How's getting ready for those?
I have nervous stomach and I almost throw up like up until it starts. And I mean, luckily I have a super great support system with my husband. And in the book community now, like I have so many friends. Like this is the most amount of friends I've had since high school. Like,
so you did have friends in middle school and high school. And...
yeah, in high school, I was like the cringy theater kid who was like singing musical numbers at the AMC movie theater, and we were loud and
sure,
we had fun though.
Yeah,
it was definitely like the group for me because you could be yourself.
Yeah,
school was my safe space at that time, so
much value in that.
Yeah,
like. Call yourself the cringy theater kid, but I mean, what would you be without it? I mean, right.
Not here, probably.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
And as dark as that sounds, like if I didn't have the teachers that I bonded with in high school, and if I didn't have the friends that I bonded with in high school, I know for a fact I would not be here because I was already towing the line constantly at that age. Like I was miserable, but I'd go to school and excel, and you know, I've always been really good at English, and so I bonded with my English teachers most of the time.
Yeah. So again, Great Divide from 2023, Great Desolation from 2024, My Mother's Spirit from 2024, and Temporarily Forever from 2025. It's like super awesome. Like,
thank you.
Tons of congratulations. Do you mind giving me a little synopsis of each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about My Mother's Spirit a little bit,
right.
But the story is about a 16-year-old girl who goes on this family trip with her parents and her twin sister. They go to England to visit these old kooky relatives that she's never met before. They stay with them, and you know, she's got pink hair and is like everything that I wanted to be at that age. And she has a very strained relationship with her mom, who is a drinker. Her mom has a drinking problem and is abusive to her and stuff. But while she's on this family trip, she befriends this older boy who's
Italian.
Close, Scottish.
Okay.
But and his sister, and they're kind of like, we know this place that like underage kids can go drink and hang out and stuff. And he has a motorcycle, so he's like a
nice.
bad boy. So like it's this summer fling thing. And then she also befriends this girl who she meets in the forest by the relative's house. And you kind of know almost immediately, so this isn't like giving anything away, but this girl is dead and is a ghost.
Yo.
And so Abby is now on this mission to kind of help her, solve her murder. And
You're triggering me just a little bit because I sell groceries and disposables and whatnot to restaurants, and somebody left recently, and all of their accounts came to me. So I'm kind of still meeting some folks, and one of them is World Fresh Market. Have you seen this place or been to this place? At 103rd and Metcalf? It's bananas how much culture and diversity there is in there. And it's super cool. But when I first went a couple weeks ago to meet my contact person, he was running late, and I was just kind of hovering in different little pockets of the stores. I've been standing here for too long. I got to move. And at one point I turned, and there was a display of a bunch of packages with a product in it called Turkish Delight. And I just immediately got the willies, like thinking of the evil queen from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is what she feeds Edmund.
Yes,
And then
yes.
he'll just do whatever the thing is, turn his siblings over to her. But immediately you're like, she meets this girl in the forest. I'm like, why? What are we don't, that's not where you meet people. Like, then, okay, she's dead. All right. That tracks.
Yeah, it's along the same lines as like The Sixth Sense, where like the ghost doesn't know it's a ghost right away.
Interesting.
And again, it deals with generational trauma with more than just Abby and her mom. There's other characters in the book that are dealing with stuff that you find out at the end is like the big like twist that you don't really see coming.
Okay. I will tell you, I'm for years, decades, my relationship with my mom is just weird. Like she did fine, but a lot of those sort of public, just we don't keep using this word over and over again on this episode, but cringy kinds of things. And I got to this point where I really struggled with, she's just been identityless her whole life, and I can't stand that. And she's in a community living spot right now, and my sister has handled like almost all of that on her own and continues to, and she's very heavily trending in dementia land, and she hasn't been able to get cleared for a hip replacement surgery that she very badly needs because she can't get her levels in line because she makes horrible choices, can't remember anything meds related, and so I just am in this emotionless, unattached space and have been for the longest time. And oftentimes the thought is, I feel weird about that, right? And so the thought is, well, if she wasn't here, I wouldn't feel weird about it. I wouldn't have those, just horrible.
That's where I am with my grandma, though. I totally get it.
Okay.
My grandma has become this mean old lady that I don't recognize anymore. So I kind of feel like I lost my grandma years ago. So the person that is still here, I'm like...
Well, she has had annoying tendencies for a very long time. And I don't know cart horse what the sequence is, but like it didn't take long for my kids to arrive to the same looking glass, and I feel bad about that, but it's not unbearable. But we do like birth, holidays, and let's try to grab a dinner here and there. And they are like, oh. And I'm like, dude, I know. Don't do that. I don't want to do this at all.
It's draining.
Yeah, and then it all the way down to if I'll say something or snap, have a moment, and it's like the words are still echoing or the vibe is still palpable, and I'm like, oh my God, my fucking mother right there. And I thank God nobody has been like, okay, nobody's OKR-list me yet. And clear the room if they ever do, because I don't know. It'll be tough for me to maintain composure.
And what's crazy is when he used to say that to me, I would get so pissed off, and I'd be like, "That is the meanest thing."
Right?
And then I was like, "Oh, I need to hear it though." God. That is the thing that I love about my husband is he'll read my stuff, or I'll bounce ideas off of him about my books, and he's not afraid to say like, "I don't think that's a good idea." Because it doesn't make sense for the story, or that character wouldn't do something like that. And,
nice.
And my knee-jerk reaction, because women are crazy, is like, that's so mean. And then I'll be like, yeah, you're right. But I'll admit it. And then we just like hash out like, okay, what would this character do in this scenario? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that does make more sense. And then I'm not afraid to tell him, because he'll be like, ooh, what do you think about this for a book? Because you're a writer and I don't write, but I think this is a good idea. And I'll straight up tell him, like, I don't want to write that.
Yeah. Don't ever say those words in that order again.
You write that if you want to. I'm not going to write that.
But not from my laptop. So that was Great Divide.
So with Great Divide, it started, okay, I hate admitting this, because I love the Twilight series.
I just want to clarify though, the gal that meets the person.
Oh, that was My Mother's Spirit.
That's okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
So with Great Divide, it was originally going to be a Twilight-ish story, but with a demon instead of a vampire.
Okay.
And I wrote almost the entire book and just hated where it was going, and then I deleted the second half of the book. And
that's bold.
Yeah. And because I mean, like, Twilight is what it is in its own thing, and it's very popular, and there are a lot of books out there that kind of use that same formula. And I just realized that I did not want to write that. I didn't want to write something that I've read a billion times. So, Great Divide ended up being a story that is a half and half story. The first half of the book is very slice of life. It follows this young woman who is very sheltered by her parents, but because she has a medical complication, she has Crohn's disease.
Okay.
And so her parents, hover over her because they're constantly worried about her and want to take care of her and stuff. And she, lives at home with her parents, and she finally has this opportunity to like move out and finally start college. And she's like late to the game, but is like finally getting to do it. And then she meets this perfect, handsome guy who seems too good to be true. And it's the first guy that shows her this kind of attention. So she immediately falls for him. And she starts getting sicker.
Oh.
As she starts getting sicker, she starts having very vivid nightmares, very graphic, scary nightmares. And they make a pact with each other that because she has reached a point in her illness that she is not going to get better, and they want to be together forever no matter what. They kind of make a Romeo and Juliet sort of plan.
Oh, damn. Okay.
But and this is a spoiler, so if nobody wants like any spoilers, mute it for a second. She ends up dying halfway through the book. And then the second half of the book turns into this supernatural adventure rescue mission because she's died. And when she dies, she finds out that he's not in heaven and he's not on Earth anymore. So
Where
that
is he?
that leaves only one place that he could be, and she feels terrible about it because he would be there because of her. So she ends up getting with a group of angels and going to hell to try and save his soul. So I always tell people, if you like Constantine, or a lot of people have told me Supernatural, but I've never watched the show, so I can't personally say that it's like that, but a
Sure.
lot of people tell me that it is. Good Omens, and then What Dreams May Come was like a really big inspiration for the book. Robin Williams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And then Great Desolation
Is the sequel.
And so that you see folks you already know from the... Okay.
Yes. You meet new characters. Emma's in this new role that you find out about at the end of Great Divide. And Great Desolation is about trying to right your wrongs. And in the process, sometimes you make things worse by trying to make them better. I see a lot of myself in Emma because I'm a people pleaser and I'm trying to constantly make the best out of a bad situation, or, you know, trying to fix things that are sometimes not fixable.
Right.
And sometimes you learn that the people that you think you can trust, you absolutely cannot.
Right.
And so a lot of that is in Great Desolation. And then Great Devotion, that I'm writing right now, is the final book in the series. And that kind of just beautifully concludes and wraps up everything. And
it does, or it will?
It will.
Okay.
But a lot of people struggle with how dark, especially Great Desolation, is, because you see a lot of deaths that the death angels encounter in that book. And that's their whole purpose, is they're kind of a grim reaper. And so they're there for the deaths that, like, either people don't have a guardian angel or they die alone. There's one death in particular that always bothers people. That's a little girl who went camping with her dad. The dad fell off a cliff and died. And so this little girl has just been slowly starving to death in the wilderness.
Jesus.
And her dog is with her, like, laying by her side. And she ends up passing, and then you see her later on.
Oh, wow.
In the afterlife, and the dad is, like, thanking the angel, like, thank you for being there for her, and I'm glad, you know, we're finally together again. I'm glad she wasn't alone when she died. And the deaths are sad, but it's to show that, like, there is a purpose for the death angels to be there, so they're not alone.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah.
And then Temporarily Forever.
So this was me seeing if I could do something completely out of my wheelhouse. It's a romance novel, so not dark at all. Okay, so I wrote this because I have a constant fear of mass shootings. Like,
my God.
I'm scared.
How convenient for an anxious person.
I know. I am constantly worried about my kids.
Sure.
Every day they go to school.
Yeah.
My husband has had coworkers threaten to come in and shoot at his work. Like,
what do you do?
Well, I work for Guitar Center at a distribution center. So
people who have gotten fired
from that, like, previous employees.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, it's.
Did you know that they were unstable prior to them saying? Really?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
I know.
Because you would think that you walk about the world having, stay away from that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But surprise, often. Sorry.
No, but I mean, like, now they have, like, an active shooter drill that they do every once in a while to make sure, like, they know what to do in case that happens. And every time we're in a crowded place, like, we get season passes to Worlds of Fun. Every time we go, I'm constantly stressing. And I know they have metal detectors there, but, like, I kind of use Worlds of Fun for Temporarily Forever. So I had a nightmare one night that me, my husband, our 2 sons, and then our friends who were married at the time and their 2 kids all went to Worlds of Fun together. and someone had cut through the fence and got in, and there was a mass shooting. And in the process, I lost my husband, and our friend lost his wife and one of his kids. And I woke up in the middle of the night. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I could not go back to sleep because 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. And I just could not get myself to go back to sleep, and I was scared to go back to sleep because I didn't want to keep dreaming that. I have very, very vivid dreams, which is where a lot of the stuff in my books come from.
How long have the prescriptions been in the rear view?
Let's see. Our youngest is 9, so 10 years.
Okay. When that's going on, are you like feeling like you need to do something in that regard?
I take edibles now, and that honestly helps. I know a lot of people still have beef about pot, but like
who? Not Texas. I mean,
my family.
Right.
My family is very anti marijuana.
Sure,
but
I'm kidding when I say who, because if you look at the map of Missouri, and there's a meme to go with this. It looks like Kansas City and St. Louis are trying as hard as they can to get out.
Yes.
When you get a little further east of you guys, like Oak Grove, maybe even before that, like almost all the way to St. Louis, like that whole swath of Missouri, like keep it moving.
Yep.
I love Missouri, but also a lot of folks in it that I'm going to keep anyway.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, why would, it's sort of rhetorical, but why would one have a problem with marijuana?
Oh, because they come from that generation where it's the gateway drug,
yes,
and reefer madness, and being high. You're not yourself. You don't have control of your body because you're stoned. And I mean, we have like such low tolerance that we cut a gummy in half and then cut it again into a fourth, and that's all we take. And I would so much rather take that and sleep well and be relaxed and feel calm and feel like normal than to ever try prescription. And I don't want it to sound like prescription drugs are bad. It works for people.
Yeah.
I know for a fact it does work for people, and if it works for you, fantastic. Just my personal experience was so awful and so traumatic that like I can't ever again. Right. I don't want to risk it.
Yeah. So now, like, do you approach sleep with calm and confidence, or do you kind of dip in and out of different?
I still have vivid nightmares. So since I'm like kind of in peak writing and I want to write as much as possible, I've been going to sleep way too late, and I get up early for work. So that kind of will start messing with my sleep. And I actually had a dream, not last night, but the night before, that my oldest was in a shooting at school.
God damn.
It's awful. I don't know. I mean, I do know because it's an everyday occurrence anymore. Like, it's constantly happening in our country. But like,
did you see the fucking who was here yesterday?
Uh-uh.
Proud Boys.
Really?
Marching downtown with flags and masks and hate in their hearts. Sorry if you guys are fans. I'm not.
No, absolutely not. No. Yeah, no.
I was like, quit. Who's posting this? We don't like. Don't.
Yeah, don't give them
attach.
attention.
Right,
that just makes it worse.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's a terrifying world. I not all the time, but I definitely am in lanes and pockets of just everyday life where most of the folks I'm around are pretty darn pro-gun.
Oh, yeah.
And usually it's not like in a threatening or violent way. But it's like there's a love, like, and a hunger for knowledge, and a thing that going to the range or hunting, whatever the thing is. And I'm like, whenever I'm in those conversations, I hope that I look like this. But on the inside, I'm like, what are we doing?
I have a terrible poker face. My husband, especially at book events, uses the phrase check your face. Because if I'm bored in a conversation, I will slowly like start doing that, and then I'll have to be like, yeah, like I have to be like, I'm probably looking like I'm bored.
Funny.
So yeah, check your face is what I always have to constantly tell myself, because I'll talk to people who are, and it's not like I'm anti-gun. I get why people need them.
Right.
But at the same time, my child is more important.
Yeah.
And my oldest was on national and local news last year because he paid off the entire lunch debt at his school and some of the high school's lunch debt.
Your child?
Yeah.
Your 13-year-old?
Yes. Yeah. He wanted to do something because he was graduating 5th grade.
Okay.
And it was like his first really, really good year of school. Like, his teacher was amazing. He was in this group called I Am Noticed, where they basically like talk you up to like make you feel better about yourself. Like, they'll point out stuff that they see, like other kids, like, oh, I really like your drawing, or you did really well, like playing basketball today. Like, and that hit something with him. And he was like, I want to do something for my school to
These are the collection of kids that get hot lunch that haven't ponied up for whatever they.
And it was really hard to try and explain to him how that happens, which I was on. I didn't qualify for the reduced lunch program because my stepdad worked based on commission. So something with how much he could potentially make messed up.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, but
yeah. So
appreciate you.
I ate peanut butter jelly sandwiches
sure
a lot at school because my mom couldn't afford the regular lunch. And so I had to explain that to my, at the time, 11-year-old, that, you know, people choose bills over paying for school lunch. And then that ends up racking up debt.
Yeah.
And, you know, they never deny a kid lunch, which is good. But when they get
not gonna
to
let you forget about it either.
No,
hey man,
no, there are school districts that don't let kids go to prom or walk at graduation if they have lunch debt. And I get it because the school district does need that money, but at the same time, you're punishing the kid, and the kid can't do anything about it.
Right.
If the parents can't do anything about it, the kid's definitely not going to be able to. So we had this conversation about it, and he was like, I want to, you know, pay some of the lunch debt. I was like, okay, yeah, I can look into it. And so I emailed the nutritional department, and I was like, how much is it? And it was like $2,000 for their school alone. And I was like, okay, well, we can.
Such a nice thought, sweetie.
Yeah, I was like,
what else
yeah,
should we do?
We'll ask friends and family if they want to like chip in or whatever. And we were thinking like $200 maybe. And one of the news stations caught wind of it. And as soon as they posted his story, it just took off like crazy. And then it gained national attention. And so we were having people from New Jersey donate, and Texas and Alaska, and people from like all over the country saying like, this is such a great thing that this kid is wanting to do. Like, if everybody chipped in and did something like this, there would be no lunch debt. And at the time, we were on our way to trying to get it to the state level to make it free for the state of Missouri. With the way things went this last election, it stopped very quickly. It's not going to go anywhere. I have either not heard back from government officials, or I've heard back that it's just that there's no way.
They're busy working on real important stuff.
Yeah.
So you be patient.
Yeah. So we're not going to do anything about gun safety, but we're also not going to do anything to make sure kids are fed at a place where they're legally required to be every day. And trying to explain that to a child there's no easy way to talk about it. In his mind, he's like, so people just don't care. And I'm like, I mean, no. And
this is just the prologue.
Yeah.
Wait till you get out there and see how much
he's like,
really
there's people who have like millions of dollars and multiple homes, but then there's people that don't have any money or any homes. Well, why don't those people give some of their stuff? And I'm like, honey, if only that was the way the world worked.
I mean, it's really a shame that we could, I don't want to stay in the political lane, but I just, to have enough courage as a country to say, let's see what Bernie Sanders would do. Just forgive him
I wish.
What? I mean, anyway. Yeah. But I think he kind of, is of that fabric of like, whatever. It's stupid. But how did we get from temporarily forever, Worlds of Fun, shoot, and then all the way to the lunch money thing? How did we?
I don't. Guns.
Guns?
Yeah. Okay. So mass shootings is like always in the back of my mind.
Sure.
And so what I have realized is writing these books helps me in some way. It's very therapeutic.
Good.
Writing out a story about something that I am terrified of and making it a happy ending.
Okay.
Helps me cope with it.
Good.
So it's about a man and a woman who are friends. They have never seen each other as anything more than that. They both lose people in a mass shooting.
Oh, shit.
She can't afford mortgage. He's living in a shitty apartment anyway. So he's like, I'll move in and help you. I'll have my own room. You'll have your own room. It'll help the kids cope with what's happening and stuff. And then like, once you get on your feet and everything, like, and I find my own place, then we'll go our separate ways. Right. And then he moves in and everybody thinks it's weird and not appropriate. And they're like, it's fine. We don't think of each other that way until they do start thinking of each other that way. And then they fall for each other and feel really bad about falling for each other. And it's kind of, it's dual point of view. So every other chapter is either from her point of view or his point of view.
Interesting.
So you get to see not only how they feel about each other and how those feelings develop, but you get to see how each of them cope with grief.
Where did you first come across the multi-point of view approach? Do you remember?
I know a lot of romance books use that formula.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I came across it with Faulkner. Okay. And As I Lay Dying. Do you know this novel?
Mm-mm. I know Faulkner.
Okay. As I Lay Dying is a story about an old lady that's dying, and each chapter is, I don't know, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 perspectives about it's blew my mind. And my boy and I are, I think, on the final chapter of a book called The Fort. This group of boys there's like some kind of major storm in the woods, and they come across this like a manhole cover looking thing, and they open it, and it's this World War III bomb shelter that this super wealthy dude built 40, however many years ago, and has been gone for. Anyway, they have this spot, and there's like, just years worth of food and like video game. There's electricity and water and blah blah blah. So they hang out in there, and they all have stuff going on in their lives. And it's multi-perspective. And
it's called The Fort?
It's called The Fort. Yeah, it's
Remember that for me.
We, like, she's some, I don't know, probably two plus years ago, just really drifted out of the interest in reading together at bedtime. But if we can get, up and in by the designated time, we'll read, So it's been, I mean, it's all the shit that each of those kids is dealing with is because of the people that are raising them, so it's really fascinating. But you've got dual happening in temporarily forever.
Yes.
So, and all 4 of those are on Amazon.
Yes,
right?
They're on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's website, and bookshop.org if you want to stay away from the big companies. Yep. I always suggest those for if you want to support indie bookstores, because you can always have them delivered to your nearest bookstore, and they'll get a percentage of the sales from that.
Okay, cool. So we've got the 4 primary social platforms at Vanessa Kramer Author, which were TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the 4 books, plus the one you're working on.
Yes.
I've got one other 4-headed monster for you. And we kind of already touched on one of them, I think. But second grade teacher tells you, and from there you're just wearing that hat, right?
Yeah. I did a spelling word project. We had spelling words that we had to memorize weekly, and one of the assignments was write a short story using all the spelling words for the week. And she looked like Fergie, the Duchess.
Oh, not Black Eyed Peas?
No. Sorry.
Immediately, I'm picturing
Duchess Fergie.
Right.
And so I, being a second grade girl, thinking she was secretly a princess.
Oh, wow.
She was so beautiful. And again, I went to this private school that the teacher I had the year before was stereotypical mean nun teacher. And so then I had her, and it was like she walked into the room and like butterflies and birds like flew around her. Like, she was so sweet, and she like always like lifted us up and made us feel like really good about ourselves, even as little kids. And so I wrote that spelling word story based on her and her then fiance, who was a prince. And she still has that story. Like, we're Facebook friends.
Oh, fun.
And she's still married to
the prince.
Yeah.
And still waiting on that king and queen
right.
promotion.
But yeah, she was the first person that said, like, I think you would make a really good writer someday. And I kind of, my mom had me in like beauty pageants.
Don't tell her that.
Yeah. And ballet.
Sure.
And my mom made me do cheerleading at one point because my mom wanted me to be like the girly girl, like do all the graceful, feminine stuff. And I was like way into writing and theater, and I was on the newspaper staff.
Nice.
I got really into wrestling, like watching WWF wrestling at one point. Like, I am girly to some extent, but for the most part, like, I'm a really big Lord of the Rings fan.
Sure.
I always felt more comfortable with the guys.
And done the Hobbit movies.
I always fall asleep.
Oh, you've tried, and okay.
Yeah.
I've only watched I've watched the 3 a lot.
Yeah.
But beyond that,
we watched the extended versions of the first 3. Like every time. And I try to put that on in the background when I'm writing because it's so calming, and I know, like, I've seen them so many times. I'm like, I'm not going to watch it, so I'll just get writing done. And then he'll come in the room, and I'm like watching it and quoting it.
How's that chapter coming along? What? That's funny.
Here recently, I've been putting on war documentaries to kind of help inspire some of the scenes in the book that I'm currently working on. There's a Nazi demon in Great Devotion, so I have watched and rewatched World War II documentaries a lot recently.
Have you watched Inglourious Bastards?
Yes.
Okay. And cousin, business is a booming.
Yes. Yes, it's such a good movie.
It really is. Okay, so 4 books out, one that you're working on, second grade spelling bee story. Are there other spots along that arc that have really fed the third word of your handle, Vanessa Kramer, author?
Honestly, I
You're one teacher in high school.
okay, yeah. So an English teacher in high school. Yeah, I forgot about that. I took Brit Lit in high school as a extracurricular class that I didn't even need. Like, I could have graduated at semester, and I chose to go the whole year because, again, I loved being at school. I love learning stuff.
I don't know where my Brit Lit Norton's is, but it's down there somewhere.
Yeah, I and I read Dante's Inferno, which inspired a lot of the great series too. So, but we were reading about or learning about satire, and we had to come up with some satirical piece to present in front of the class. And I chose to do a letter written by my dad to me, and I started off with, "Dear Vanessa, sorry if I spelled your name wrong."
It's a killer opening.
Yeah, and it just
I'm reading the rest of that page.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that much.
It was like about this whole like, "I am so sorry you weren't born a boy. I'm sure our relationship would have been a lot easier if you had been. Also, sorry I wiped out your savings account when you were a baby to pay for your babysitter's abortion." True story. I mean, it's like all this stuff.
Solid.
Yeah. I know
God.
we just celebrated your birthday. Thanks for paying for your own movie ticket so I had enough money to pay for your stepbrothers. I mean, it was just like gut punch after gut punch.
Sounds like pullout game is not a strong suit.
And
Old dad.
So I finished it, and the class was just dead silent, and a couple of kids were like,
I don't think I want to read mine.
yeah. And so, me being like the studious person I always volunteered to go first with speaking stuff because I loved sharing my stuff with people. And I looked over at my teacher, and she's just leaning on her podium, and she's like, "Will you read that again?"
Damn.
And, my first instinct was like, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble." Like, I said something inappropriate, or it didn't make sense. I botched the assignment. So I did it again. I delivered it the exact same way.
Like, just you didn't even go back to your chair? Just
yeah, I read it again, and then I finished, and I kind of just pivoted to her, and I was like,
"Will you go see the counselor now?"
Well, and she was like, "Okay, you can sit down." And then like other kids went through the class and everything, and I'm sitting at my desk like, what happened? Yeah. And so she was like, the bell rings, and she's like, "Hey, Vanessa, will you stay after class?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Here we go.
She goes and gets one of the other English teachers, and she's like, "Come in here." And she was like, "Will you read that for him?" And I was like,
This
"Oh
one's gonna
my
cost you $20.
God." And so I read it again, and he was like, "Whoa." And I was like, "Okay, did I do something wrong? Like, am I in trouble?"
Zipper down? Like...
And she was like, "No, I just can't believe, like, you took an assignment about satire, and that was what you presented." And I was like, "Is it good?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's really good."
Nice.
And like your the rhythm that you delivered it, and the way you just made your dad sound like he legit did not think any of those things he did was wrong. And he thinks that he is this guy that everybody should love, and how cool he thinks he is. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my dad." And she's like, "I just cannot believe that was what you did with that assignment." And I was like, "Okay." And she was like,
"Can I go now?"
I know. I'm like feeling like I'm being held hostage,
right,
but like in the best way possible. And she was like, "You really need to pursue writing."
Cool.
And I was like, "I mean, I want to, like, as like a side hobby type thing."
Yeah.
And she was like, "No, I think there is something there that you need to like really dig yourself into." And I was like, okay.
Will do. Are you any communication with that teacher?
No. I don't know. I think she's still teaching, but I don't know where she's teaching anymore. But I mean, at some point, I hope she learns that she was a super huge influence.
Yeah, she doesn't get killed in a school shooting.
Right. I'll write a book about it. But and then when the pandemic happened and I was like forced into isolation because Kyle and the boys all got COVID and I did not. And so I was in my room by myself for a week straight. And then I just basically wrote most of Great Divide during that time.
Wow.
And I think being in solitude, because I don't do well by myself for long periods of time. And I think having that, like, I'm stuck with myself and kind of doing that stereotypical kooky writers, like, my mind is like working against me, but in the best ways so I can get this writing done. Like, it was good and bad. It was not fun being in there by myself, but then I wrote a book out of it. So.
Nice. Bob Walkenhorst, you know this name?
Mm-mm.
He's a super cool dude. He was on for episode 139. He was in the Rainmakers, who in the 80s were like huge in Kansas City. He still gigs a couple times a week at Mike Kelly's West Sider in Westport. Really sweet guy. But in doing prep for his interview, I realized he had written a book and he brought a copy with. I was so geeked out. Oh my God! You're gonna do another one? You gonna do it again? He goes, "Oh no!" And I was like, "What? That's all right. We'll cut that out. That's the wrong answer. You gonna?" And I go, "What's the deal there?" And he goes, "Man, it was such a lonely journey." And I got goosebumps just now. I sat right across from him and went, "Yeah, okay, it is. I get that." But second grade story, nightmares is sprinkled a little bit in your online presence, and we've talked a little bit about it. Is there anything you want to add or flesh out, or should we move past it?
I mean,
we don't want to trigger
No, I like I said, I have really vivid dreams, and a lot of the nightmares that show up in Great Divide are nightmares that I have had, and it's funny because I'll have readers come up to me and be like, "Man, that one dream really messed me up. Like, that was creepy." Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, I actually dreamt it,
right.
And it was very creepy."
I was on set when they were recording that day.
And I'm not one of those people. Like, I know there are people out there that will say, like, you can change your dream. Like, you have control of your dreams. Like, you can wake yourself up from dreams. Like, you can make it to where, like, whatever's happening changes. I've never been able to.
Sure.
And my conscious state is okay with that because I've written great stuff out of those really fucked up dreams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm not going to, like, have a dream like that and just throw it away and forget about it. Like, I'm going to be like, that was messed up and very disturbing, and I can't go back to sleep now. So I'm going to write it in the hopes that someone reads that and they're disturbed and can't go to sleep.
Yeah. Inception.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
I do agree with the time that you're asleep is a lot longer in sleep state than it is in real life because
it's too much happening.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. He's left for work before at 6:30. I've fallen back asleep, and then my alarm goes off at 6:50, which is 20 minutes. And I have had a dream that is
Two Lord
hours.
of the Rings movies.
Yeah, hours long. And I'm like, there's no way that... I definitely believe in different planes of existence. I am definitely a huge believer in alternate universes. What you have decided here is different than the decision you made somewhere else. And not to get like religious or anything, but I think free will exists with God still knowing what's going to happen, because it's like a choose your own adventure book. There's all these branches of things that can happen that are all the different possibilities that are possible to happen. And in some plane, you are making each of those choices that branch off into different outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think our dream state kind of ties into that some way. I'm obviously like a small, tiny, stupid human being that can't like grasp that, but I feel like it's somehow connected.
Sure. Wow.
Because your brain comes up with it from somewhere.
Yeah. Do you keep notebook and pen on your nightstand?
I mean, I'm new age. I just type up a note.
Yeah,
on my phone.
There's I'm a decades long fish head. And Trey has had Tom Marshall as a writing partner. They go back to like middle school. And Todd Phillips, who did the Hangover movies, did a documentary followed them around in 97 for summer tour, and then went to Europe, and then came back, and there was they had a festival in Maine, probably 70,000 people. It's a really, really great documentary. But there has been, for as long as they've been around, folks that will poke fun at the lyrical content of some of their songs. And he's like, I think that's crazy, because the things that Tom and I write about are like super cool, nuanced human things. And he's like this one we just wrote, and he's interviewing him, and he's messing around with his guitar, and the song's called Sleep, and so it's about the just realness and the spotlight and the intensity of what's happening in dreamland, and then when you wake up, it starts to drift until poof, and you're like, so the idea, like, and I've got a journal with some middle of the night Scrabbles in it, and some of that stuff is like when I've managed to like roll over and jot it down, and then look back and like, oh my God, there's so much there that I could just a few words or a few lines that helped me access what was happening in that dream, or I could just build on it from scratch. But if I don't see it, goodbye. Nightmares, though. That's crazy. Stephen King. Tell me what intro, and you've held on to this. I mean, you just smiled big time.
He's literally the only famous person that if I were to meet him, I would be at a loss for words.
Okay.
I'm very much, I don't worship celebrities. They're just people.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I've never been starstruck when I've met a famous person. And I also feel like there's like, I don't know, like a weird thing about feeling like someone that's a complete stranger. Like, especially with the Taylor Swift craze. Like, all the Swifties dive into like what these lyrics mean, and she posted this. What does this secretly mean?
Layers.
Well, did you know when she was 5 years old this happened to her?
Do you know you sound like a crazy person?
Right? They're just people.
I love Taylor Swift, by the way.
Same. I don't call myself a Swiftie because it sounds cultish to me. I don't know. It just, you do you, but I don't like using the term. But I love her as a person and a musician, but she's just a person. Like, taking pictures of her while she's just trying to live.
Ugh.
Like,
Stephen King is your Taylor Swift.
yeah. So I think if I ever met Stephen King, I would just be like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to say.
What's the intro?
So I read Salem's Lot in 7th grade.
Okay.
Way above reading level for a 7th grader. And I fell in love with how scared it made me. Like, because I grew up watching scary movies. My mom used to be a huge horror movie buff.
Sure.
She doesn't anymore because she thinks that she's going to have a heart attack because of how old she is now. She doesn't like watching scary movies. But it opened the floodgates for me. Like, I was 5 years old watching Jaws and Halloween.
Too young.
I know.
That's why I'm terrified of the ocean.
I know.
Fucking, I don't know why my parents should have been like, turn that off.
So my mom's
What are you doing?
my mom's favorite movie of all time is Jaws.
I don't
she's
get
obsessed
that
with
at
sharks.
all.
She
Oh.
loves sharks.
Ugh.
She's gone in a cage before, like with sharks swimming around and stuff. Yeah. But this is the woman who, like, if I stepped out of the house, something bad would happen.
You
to
can't
me.
drive on K10
Yeah.
You can get in the ocean with
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I have a really low tolerance for being scared now because I consume all things horror, so it's very difficult to scare me. But I remember reading Salem's Lot and just being so creeped out. Like, I didn't want to turn the lights off. I thought I would see something in the corner. I thought I could see something move out of the corner of my eye.
Right. You're giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, and I just loved feeling like that, though, because when you're scared, you feel very vulnerable and very alive, and it's also a really nice break from, like, real world scariness, like getting into monsters that don't exist in the real world. And
that's why, I think I almost never put on a show. Like, if I'm watching TV, it's almost guaranteed that it's a live sporting event. Now, I will watch stuff like on my phone, like Netflix, Hulu, whatever, but folding laundry, doing dishes, I can't just, watch something. I think at one point I was like, oh, let's see what this Stranger Thing, and I was like, no, this is not. But then my daughter, like, all of her, Dad, do you want to watch Stranger Things together? And I was like, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it through season 1, and like there was a pocket where I was like, is this it feels like this is going to be about like a monster. And then I was like, oh, this is totally about a monster. And then near the end of season 1, I was like, okay, so they killed the monster. What, I wonder. And then you start season 2 and it's like, oh, it's just monsters. I was like, I'm glad. Good for you that you made this thing that all these people love. But one season's plenty for me.
I love Stranger Things.
Sure.
And then our oldest got into it, which, as a parent, bonding with your kid over anything is nice. But
that's why I did the season.
Yeah, being a mom with sons, it's really hard. I try really hard. Like, they're really into Dragon Ball Z, and I don't know anything about it, and I try, and they just make fun of me.
Sure.
Because I don't know what any of their names are or what the powers are called or whatever, but I try. So when my oldest started, like, wanting to try scary movies, I was like, yes. And he loved Jaws.
Okay.
We watched Alien, and he ran to the bathroom and almost threw up during the chest burster scene. So he's not into gore at all, come to find out. But there's some things that he'll watch, and he thought he wanted to watch It. And I told him, I will show you the opening scene. And I showed him the newer one. Okay. And I was like, I will show you the opening scene, and if we can get through that, then yeah, I'll let you watch them. And as soon as that kid's arm gets ripped off, he was like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. And I was like, yeah. Good. He knows his limits.
Yeah. So what else, Stephen King, have you read?
I've attempted to read it, and it's just such a huge book that I still have not finished it, but I've read... So my favorite book of all time is a Stephen King movie. Book. It's called Desperation.
Okay.
I've read it several times. I've gone through several copies of it just because I break the spine so badly. But it's such a good book. And then my second favorite book of all time is a Stephen King book. It's called The Long Walk, which is getting ready to become a movie.
Cool.
I'm very, very looking forward to that. And I mean, the fact that you can write a whole novel about teenage boys walking, and if you stop long enough, you get shot, and the last person standing wins like a large sum of money and is like taking care of the rest of their life.
What?
Yeah, I mean that's the concept of the book.
Who's doing the shooting?
Like police, military type people, like they
Did you
follow
watch
along with
Handmaid's
them.
Tale?
Oh yeah.
That I swear to like, right now, like the sound of the walkie commute that's always like muffled and a little distant gives me the crick, because when I was watching seasons 1, 2, 3, I was like, it's this very like this could be tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's oh my God. You know, because people are, somebody's over there. There was somebody walking over there. Like, let's send a bunch of dudes with AR-15s and make sure everything's all right.
Yep. It is becoming more of a documentary than fiction anymore. And I read the Handmaid's Tale and the Atonements. That's the sequel to it. And love the books. Highly recommend them. I'm really anxious to see how this last season of the show wraps up, because so far they haven't really hit a whole lot of what's in the Atonements. So
I checked out what's the couple where that she worked under, dude with the beard and the blonde lady.
Yeah.
What's their names? I'll keep one. Fred
and Serena.
Yeah, Fred and Serena. So they get separated. I think Fred gets see you latered, and
I was saying, are you caught up on the
no,
show?
No. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is they get to Canada, and then we start getting like the lesbian couple and their activism. And then does she get weird with her husband? I know that like initially when they're going to be intimate after being separated, it's weird. Does she stay weird? And
there's still like some back and forth with her husband Luke, and then Nick that she fell in love with,
and had a
baby with, and
then something had gone on with Hannah, and so the season, then there's a bombing that, you know, whatever that season is, I made it all the way through that and then started the next one, and I was like, I feel like they're doing this thing where they're just
stretching it out as much as possible.
And so I checked out. I owe it a revisit to see if that was just
if you can sit through it, this season is worth it.
Okay.
This season is so worth it.
Nice.
It's so satisfying to see some of the things happen.
Cool.
In this season.
Have you read On Writing?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I want you to have this. It's one of the most enjoyable books I've ever read, and I've only read it once. And I'm not like a big horror, or gore person, so I've never really like spent much time. And I love all the movie adaptations of stuff that, I love that book so freaking much because it's like the look behind the curtain, if you will. So I'm curious if you enjoy it too.
Well, thank
so let
you.
me know.
I really appreciate that.
And so we did second grade Nightmare, Stephen King, Casey Bookbeat. Sorry.
So I actually brought one for you.
Okay, cool.
This is our newest copy. The spring one will be featuring all children's authors.
Oh, nice.
And then the fall one will be featuring all adult authors.
Some cool sponsors.
So we just had our children's event in April that I led, basically. And we had Mr. Stinky Feet there. Which
still at it.
Oh yeah. He's still dancing around barefoot, getting kids singing goofy songs with him. But
Nerd Fest.
Yeah, so that's coming up. It's kind of like our own little Comic-Con event that we're doing.
Cool.
Do what?
First one.
Yes, our first one.
Nice.
Lit and Libations is our event where we bring out the catalog.
Look at this lady.
Getting a whole page.
Right.
And then next month, I am leading a group of authors in Queer Ink, an author symposium. That's going to be at the Johnson County Library.
Cool.
So a group of us take turns speaking about our personal stories and our writing and answering questions that the community has. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Very cool. This relationship, Casey Bookbeat and you come together how?
So when I first published Great Divide, I wanted to do author signings.
Okay.
Because when I had published My Mother's Spirit back in the day when I was 19, my first ever author signing was at a Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to work there. And
Be kind, rewind.
yeah. And my mom asked my former manager, can she do a book signing here? And he was like, sure. And then my second book signing was in the produce section at a Hy-Vee.
Cool. Helpful smile in every aisle.
And then my third book signing ever was at Independence Center during like one of their like sidewalk sale type things that the malls used to do. So like
the square?
No, the mall, the Independence Center.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because there just wasn't.
Keep your head on a swivel there.
Right. Yeah, and it's just getting worse. That place is so sad. But
there's a shitload of foot traffic still.
oh yeah.
Which
I mean,
is-
it's
which
mostly
is why
kids.
you gotta keep your head on a swivel.
Huh?
Huh?
With hardly any stores.
Yeah.
There's like nothing open anymore. But so like when I first got published, there were no places to do book signings. And so this time around, I just kind of put it out there like, does anybody want to have me there to sign books? I don't know.
You guys heard about how awesome I am yet?
Right.
All right, let me tell you.
And Karma Community Market in Blue Springs reached out to me and they're like, we host vendors. I'm actually like wanting to start doing author events. And I was like, cool. And Sarah, who hosted the author event there, introduced me to Stacy Hubbard. And Stacy had a pop-up bookstore and she kind of inherited the books from her parents who passed away, like thousands of books.
Damn.
So she was just taking a few of these books at a time to these events and having a pop-up bookstore, which I had never seen before. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And being at these events, she was meeting local authors and getting their books to sell at her pop-up bookstore too. So I did my first bigger event last April in 2024. And I took 40 copies of Great Divide, and I sold all 40 copies. And I was
Hell yeah.
I know. I was like, this is amazing. I love this feeling. This is what I want to do. I want to keep doing this.
Were you like, it's because of the editorial changes, right? I don't see me anywhere in the credits, though, strangely. No, I'm kidding.
But so Stacy, we just kept in touch, and she was like, what are your thoughts on the author community? What are you looking for? And I told her what's crazy is it feels very, like, even though there's a lot of us, it feels very isolated. You ask other authors, like, hey, do you know of any events coming up? And at the time, they were like, no. And I'm like, okay. And then you see these authors, like, have these events, and you're like, well, why didn't they...
Motherfucker.
No. And it's like this idea of if they buy your book, they won't buy mine. And that's not the way readers work. Readers will read all the books. And even if it's not their genre, you can still point them in the direction of someone who does write the genre that they like. And so there was like a very like closed off feeling last year before we kind of all started talking to each other, and we were like, we can all be successful. Like, it's not you or me, it can be both.
Right.
And so Stacy just kind of got this idea of like, I want to be the person that brings everyone together as a community. She was raised by parents who are very a part of the community and were constantly like networking
It's
with
like
other
the
people.
opposite of generational trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you
Well,
call
and what's
that.
funny is like Stacey at the time told me that she was like, we'd go to the grocery store and someone there would know my mom, and then she'd stand around and talk for 30 minutes, and I always hated that, but like,
Mom, the ice cream. Come on.
but it taught Stacey to be someone that networked with people. Like she's constantly making connections with new people and getting new ideas, or like listening to people who have ideas. And
That's cool.
it's so important, because writing is like we've talked about, such an isolating thing. You're by yourself with your computer and you're working on this thing that you hope someone likes half as much as you do.
And of all the things, challenges, passages you love, all the things, who are you sharing that with? Right? It's not like you got like maybe you do have a group chat with a bunch of authors.
I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the time when your butt's in the chair and you're doing it, that's hasn't been the case, at least in my experience. And, same was true with Bob when he shared his little thing. But
Yeah. Yeah. And now I feel like I hit something in my story and I'm like, do you ever have a character where you're writing them and you really like them, and then all of a sudden, like, you just don't like this character anymore, but you don't know what to do with them? And now I have a group of people who are like, oh, yeah.
Send them to a school shooting. Sorry.
Yeah, but like it's crazy because so Stacey started Casey Bookbeat by herself.
Awesome. Shouts out to Stacy.
Yeah, and she came out with
And her
the
parents
first. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And what's crazy is she actually gave me a first edition of Salem's Lot that belonged to her parents.
Oh, cool.
And it's like wrapped in plastic in my house. No one's allowed to touch it. Like, I love it so much. And so her giving that to me, it being my first Stephen King book, I was like, this is so awesome. So she brought on...
You've heard the car accident story, right?
About Stephen King?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So Stacey brought Trisha Otis on to be part of Casey Bookbeat, and it was just the two of them. And then Stacey reached out to me and she was like, do you want to be a board member? And I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified for that. And she's like, none of us are. It's all volunteer based. We all just share the responsibilities. I want an author on the board because you know what authors are going to need and want. And, me being the OCD, super hyper anxious person that I am, I was like constantly for months, like, I have no business being here. Like, why me? Like, what am I doing here? And now in almost June, I've headed a children's event. I've helped with a workshop. I'm getting ready to help with Queer Ink, like I said. I have a really big project that I have in mind for next year.
Wow. Isn't that weird when it's like not even the midpoint of the year that you're in and you start like, this is 2020, like, who am I? When did I become organized and responsible? Right. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, the fact that I'm already starting plans for 2026, realistic me is like, I just hope I make it through this year. Okay.
Right.
But again, that's what I love about Casey Bookbeat is if someone has an idea or they notice something that's lacking in the book community, we try as hard as we can to make it happen.
Cool.
We went to Planet Comic-Con this year, and I was there all 3 days with different authors each day. And that was something on my bucket list that I did not think was going to happen in the first 2 years of being a published author.
Right.
Doing Comic-Con was bananas.
I bet.
I've never been around that many people before in my entire life. It was crazy.
Don't tell your mom.
Oh, trust me, she was like worried the entire weekend.
Of course.
I I didn't tell her about the one night I came out and he had parked to pick me up at a different spot, and I kind of got semi lost in downtown for a little bit, but she doesn't need to know
Downtown Casey Mo?
Yeah.
I mean, there are worse places to be lost.
That's true. That's true.
Not far from here.
That's true.
So, I am new to Casey Bookbeat. Like, I didn't know about it. How is the thing that wants to grow, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what are the steps?
Well, we have an event coming up that's going to be in St. Joe.
Fun.
So we're kind of slowly starting to branch out of the immediate area.
Okay.
One of my ideas that I would really love to do is start going to book events in other states and having a Casey Book Beat table at those events, and then taking authors from Kansas City, Missouri, taking their books to those events so they can start reaching out-of-state readers.
In your hands.
Yes.
Okay. Is there, I'm hesitant to ask this, but I mean, is there an online presence for it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We're on all the socials.
All the socials. Okay. And consistent, good content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes Stacy will just go like, again, that's why I love Threads, because you can just say the most like off the wall, batshit crazy stuff, and the audience is there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. With welcoming arms or a stick to meet you with.
Yeah. She's trying really hard to get Pizza Hut to do some sort of like book it type thing.
Interesting.
Like if we could get some sort of like pizza company to do like a book it, but with like Kansas City authors being like the goal for the reading. That's kind of a, like I said, like we're a bunch of, to one extent or another, neurospicy, kind of just unhinged women running this nonprofit that, our goal is to make sure everyone has a spot at our table and is heard.
Cool. Why, I don't know that or if there's even an answer. Why go in the chain direction with the pizza thing instead of local?
Oh, she'd definitely take local.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
She actually prefers small business local, because that's part of Casey Bookbeat too. It's not just the authors; it's like local small community or small businesses in the community too. So she would definitely be for a local pizza place to do it.
Huh. I mean, I know a bunch, so not that would be guaranteed yeses, but I could at least connect her with some folks. So much good stuff. I appreciate your guys' time. The discipline in managing your life, I mean, forget about all this other stuff, but managing your life in order to consistently get your butt in the chair and editing and publishing and prep and promoting, I mean, the rest of your life doesn't stop. How do you make it work?
The realistic answer, I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know how in the moment, it feels like I'm not doing enough. And then at some point, I take a step back and look at all of the things that I'm doing. And I don't know. I kind of go on autopilot. I don't realize in the moment that I'm doing it that I'm accomplishing this much stuff. But then when I'm like, oh, I have a podcast interview and I'm going to do my first speaking event, and I got to do Comic-Con this year, and I'm getting ready to do another convention later on this year. Like, I'm doing it.
Do you write at the same time every day, or are you all over the place?
I'm all over the place.
Okay.
It's whenever I get a moment. I run an in-home daycare, and I have 2 kids of my own.
You have other children that you're responsible for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you don't like, the Chappelle Show character that has become a meme? Y'all got any more? You don't like if you don't get to put in some hours, do you crack out a little bit? That's the quickest answer of the afternoon right there, folks.
Yeah. If I don't find a time to put my book playlist on and write for at least an hour. If I could get in an hour a day, it's good enough for me. I just need to get some time at some point in the day in for writing.
7 days a week.
Yes. I never go a day unless because I do suffer from migraines. So there are days where like my head is not wanting to do anything except try and make itself feel better.
When you're sitting there, obviously the internet and 1,000 distractions are one keystroke away. You have the discipline to just stay in the pocket, or
my computer doesn't distract me. My phone does.
Okay. I'm the same. It's kind of safe to say that every hour of this is 3 hours on the back end, because I'm not present right now in our conversation in the same way that I'm present observing it. It's sort of like taking that step back, or putting down a manuscript and then coming back to edit, and you're fresh. You're like, God, I thought this was good yesterday. This is dog shit.
Yes.
But I'm also cutting between the two cameras, and that goddamn phone. Like, hey, what's going on TikTok? What are you doing?
Yep.
You came down here and turned on lights and sat in a chair for a reason.
Yep.
And you got 6 minutes in, and you're...
I'm also a big mobile game person. I'm on an app that it'll give you points if you play phone games, and then you can exchange those points for like gift cards.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's like something that I do, and I try and tell my husband, like, well, I'm going to make money basically off of doing this. And he's like, yeah, you have to spend like 20 hours of playing your farm game to get like $2. And I'm like, it's $2 I didn't have before.
Right.
But it's an addiction. And I will be the first to say, like, I wish we didn't have smartphones. I wish phones just went back to being phones.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's there, and it's not going anywhere, and they know how to get us sucked into it. So I try really hard, but, I'll see I have a messenger notification, and I'm like, what if it's something that Casey Bookbeat needs?
Yeah.
Or
Speaking of which, I peeled away from that too quickly. Casey Bookbeat obviously has print copies that are distributed
at bookstores mainly.
Okay.
We're in the process of getting those rolled out to bookstores in the area, and then the authors who are featured in them, they get copies that they can distribute how they want.
Okay, cool.
But I'm pretty sure like the catalog is available to anybody who asks for one.
Right. Okay. And then you said on all the socials, and is there a website too?
Yes.
Okay.
CaseyBookbeat.com.
CaseyBookbeat.com. And this Stacy is running all this with the board she cobbled together.
Yeah, Stacy's
of the neurospicy women.
Stacy's very much she takes on a lot by herself because she doesn't want to trouble anyone else. But she's only one person.
Right.
And so letting go of some of that control to like relay responsibility onto other people is very hard for her.
I bet.
Because she has a very specific vision in mind, and slowly but surely we're adding more and more people. It's still just the 3 board members, but we have Zach Chamberlain, who is our Kansas side author relations director. He's also our horror representative, so he tries to find all the horror authors. Lori Fairchild is our young adult representative, so she tries to find all the kids and young adult authors. Cool. We just brought on Chelsea and Melissa, who are Madison Chase. They're co-authors under the name Madison Chase. They're now our media or content strategists or something like that.
Sure.
So they're helping out with all of our social media stuff, because now we have reached a point where Stacy can't do all the things all the time.
Yeah.
So luckily,
Stacy, good people. Yeah.
she's super chill too. Like she's so chill that I'm constantly worried that she's mad about something. Because I have never met such a laid back, like, yeah, whatever you think is gonna work.
I'm trying to get under your skin, damn it.
I know. I don't think it's super possible with her. I mean, I will say we had a lot of authors show up without tables to our children's event, and that seemed to be the thing that finally, you could see like, oh, this is what makes Stacey finally snap. Showing up unprepared to a vendor event.
Wow.
But she's still, like, to your face, will not let you see that she's irritated. She's always just super chill, super understanding, will hear anybody who wants to talk her ear off.
Nice. Very cool. So, great list you shared with me. I appreciate it. And I just roll through them chronologically, if that's cool.
Yeah.
So we go back to 69 and Abbey Road.
Yes.
The Beatles. 12 of 13 for them. This is so great. Literally 2 episodes ago, somebody had Abbey Road on their list, which...
You can't beat it. I love the Beatles, but this album is just perfection.
It's been only White Album, Sgt. Pepper's, and something else, maybe not even a third and I put it on. I was like, God damn, this is really, obviously it's an iconic photograph.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, John Nell from episode 169, which isn't even out yet. There's so many big bangers, and then there's this pocket late in side B of quirky little lesser known 1 minute numbers, which is a whole different lane to be in when you're listening to everything else that is the album. Beatles come to you how?
So, despite my quarrels that I had with my stepdad, he introduced me to a lot of music that I was just not ever exposed to before him. My dad is super into rock, and my mom is super into pop and country.
Okay.
So, I've always been well-rounded when it comes to music, but my stepdad very much stayed in the era from when he was a kid, like bubblegum pop, Motown, and the Beatles. And of course, like, I knew who the Beatles were, but I knew like the most famous songs by them until my stepdad came around. And then he introduced me to every single album, and just watching that band shift from the
Penny Lane to
and like I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that super cutesy pop, and then going into the long hair hippie rock. Oh Darling is on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I listen to that song, I am blown away by how raw Paul's voice is, because it's unlike it's unlike anything he does in any other album. And I just have so much respect for artists who shift like that.
Right.
Again, that's why I love Taylor Swift so much.
Yes.
Constantly changing something about your music to like bring something new to it.
Well, you don't reinvent yourself from album to album or book to book in some sense, you're not going to be around long, because it's just too easily becomes stale, right?
Mm-hmm. You got to stay uncomfortable.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Speaking of, are we temperature-wise, beverage-wise, are you guys good?
Yeah. Could I have my coffee?
Oh, yeah. And then restroom right up there.
Just make your way through the sleeping bags and the hockey jerseys and hang it right.
Okay. Perfect.
Is this okay to sit on the table?
Yeah, you got
okay.
Coasters right there.
Okay. I didn't know if that was going to like kill the aesthetic.
This was a door shoved behind my furnace.
I wondered.
Well, and it was framed. There were 2x4s all the way around it, and it was just a thing. Well, why is that? What is that? It scared me because I thought if I ever looked, there would be a mouse or something. Until I got this room ready to do this, and I was like, let's. So I'm not handy. I ripped all the 2x4s off, and that's what the support is.
Oh.
And there's a third section.
That's pretty handy.
Well, I mean, it took forever, and I needed to like bother people, for pointers. So there's a third section, and they're like hasped together, so I can get them out of here if I want to use this room for something else. Which I'll do something else with that third section. But had been, I don't know if it was exposed to weather somewhere or if it was just all those years in a basement. I don't know how many years it sat back there before I lived here. But I needed to sand it down a lot. And there was like some kind of protective layer. And then the door, anyway, the 25 that was on it had to go because of the sanding, but I wasn't going to not put it back on there. And I went to I was going to the hardware store all the time while I was trying to get this ready. And I had some tools and whatever, and these 2 stickers. And the lady goes, "What are you going to do with those?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "These 2." I was like, "Oh, I have this door in my basement that I'm turning into a table, and I had to sand it." She's like, "My dad for my wedding reception made all the tables were doors that he like framed and numbered." And I was like, "Well, I might have one of them. Can we? I gotta go. This is she."
That's crazy.
Had this vibe, like didn't change, and I was like, so it might be from her wedding, but yeah, I love homage. I mean, the version of this room that existed had like swinging doors and beadboard walls. So I had somebody tear them down and put real walls so I could put art up. And there was no ceiling. There was just exposed floor joists that were painted black. So it was kind of cool. That was the light fixture in the old room. And then the ducts being black is to, homage to whoever was cool enough to make this room in its first version, like deserves to, anyway, same thing with, but Beatles, episode 1 was, the editor-in-chief. I was on, newspaper staff, high school and college. Editor-in-chief and longtime friend, was here, with his kids. They flew in and we went to see, Casey Musgraves, and then we did episode 1 together. And he, like, right out of the gate, he was like, the Beatles were for everybody, and television and families, and then they went fill in the blank country, I don't know, and smoked pot, and they were never the same ever again. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that, but that totally tracks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just a super, super fun record. I have mentioned this a few times recently, but I had a 62 to 66 and a 67 to 70 compilation that I dubbed on cassette, and just, I mean, so many plays over that and I was like, I have all the Beatles. And then years later, somebody like, "But have you listened to the White Album? Have you listened to Revolver? Have you listened to Abbey Road?" I'm like, what do you mean? And then it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like a different band almost.
Yeah. So Stepdad is the...
Yeah. So again, like, some of this stuff, like, Come Together was obviously one that I already knew, but like he introduced me to some of that older stuff. And what's funny is I love the Beatles so much, and this is my favorite album of theirs, just all around. But I Need You and I'm Looking Through You are my 2 favorite Beatles songs. And I would have never heard those if it hadn't been for my stepdad.
Oh, cool.
And so
I forget, did they stay together or no?
My mom and stepdad, yeah, they're still together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And he introduced me to some like dumb stuff, like Paul Revere and the Raiders, I think is what they're called.
I thought you meant Beastie Boys for a second.
And then like Bobby V, like some of the stuff that like Bobby V has a song called Rubber Ball, and it's like rubber ball, I'll come bouncing back to you, and then he goes ooh, 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 like, you know, just that like that Buddy Holly type like stuff that I hated growing up listening to around him, and now I listen to it because I listened to everything, like everything except modern country, basically.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, like, I still like will go really hard on 90s country, and then I love, you know, like old country, like Patsy Cline.
Sure.
I love that stuff too. But
I'm gonna give you somebody.
Okay.
I'm not a country dude, and I assume by modern you mean like 90s till now.
Like
or 2000s.
2000s to now, probably.
Okay. Steven Wilson Jr.
Okay.
He is a goofy, big old glasses and a trucker hat and a bolo tie, and chops for days, and a real warm, fuzzy tone. And I mean, so he apparently this place called the Print Shop in Nashville is like legendary for gigs. But he, a clip of him doing one of his originals, I think from this YouTube live at the Print Shop, wound up in my feed one day, and I was like, dude, like that guy. And then all of a sudden, you can tell it's the same venue, same show. He's doing a cover of Stand By Me, which, you know, I think is a Stephen King originally.
Yeah.
Which is really good. And then he puts out an album called Son of Dad. It's so goddamn good. And there's a lot of songs on it, but I mean, they're all good in their own way, but like 6 or 8 of them are just phenomenal, just really, really good. And I say he's country, but he's not.
Okay.
I Jason Isbell, Sturgill Simpson, these kinds of cats. Are you familiar with them?
Sturgill Simpson, yeah.
I mean, sort of like I don't know.
Okay.
Check out Son of Dad, or look him up on Instagram or something. Really good vibe, and the writing. Oh my God, like, you know.
See, lyrical content to me is such a huge part of the music that I love. Like, I'll listen to like trap music where it's just like, you know, I'm a bad bitch. Like, I love that stuff because it gets me like hype. Like, I'll listen to my rap and hip hop playlist before I do events just because it gets me so psyched up. But like, when I am wanting to enjoy music in its entirety, the lyrics are sometimes my favorite part of a song.
He's real sharp. In fact, 2 months of spring break, my ex and I drove to Florida with the kids, which is, you know, we've done a few. I mean, we're at all the sporting events and school functions and so on. We did Disney when separation. I don't even think we were divorced, which was like hopefully we can make it through this without a fight. We had one big one, but it was great that it was only one. So going into this, I'm like, fucking, I like you this much in small doses. But let's go. Here we go. Because everybody was going, like all the kids' friends were going and blah, blah, blah. So there was a stretch on that drive down where everybody was asleep. And I'm listening to this record, and very late in the track listing, a song called Henry pops up. And it's the story of him meeting this boy. He meets his mom and him at the same time. And he's got like ice cream stain and a grass stain, and marries her. And he becomes his. And the whole message of the story is like, you don't have to, there's no expectation on what you call me. There's no rule. I won't love you differently or judge you. So you don't have to worry about calling me dad. You don't have to, whatever. But I hope that if I accidentally introduce you to somebody as my son, that it won't bother you. Mm-hmm. I'm streaming on the high, like with nobody to share it with.
That's going to get me because that's kind of the growth with my stepdad. Like, yeah. I just recently started referring to him as my stepdad.
First name before?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's been times before that, like, I've said my parents, meaning him, Again, just that growth as
Yeah.
a person, and me and him together, just, it sucks that we went through years of not getting along, but what's important is we get along now.
Nice.
And my kids have a really great grandpa out of it, which I don't think they would have ever had with my biological dad. So
Cool.
I can at least appreciate that he shows up for my boys. He's always at school events, and
Nice.
he had a stroke several years
damn.
ago. And he still tries to show up for everything for them. And so, I mean, like, I can't dislike someone
Right.
who makes an effort like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of respect there.
There's another. I mean, there's so many good songs on that record, but there's one called, I think it's called "Twisted," and he's got just such an unusual voice, and the refrain of the song is, "Beer's cold, but the bar." No, let's see. "Beer's cold, but the bar's closed. There's a drought in the wettest part of Oklahoma. Tornadoes come through town on Christmas. Nobody's hurt, but the house is missing. God is good. Life is twisted." A lot of different directions lyrically within. Anyway, enough about that.
That's really awesome.
8 years later, 1977, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac. 11 of 17, 11 tracks, 39 minutes from Liverpool to London. We got to go all the way back to episode 30 with Cesar Sanchez, El Dominicano, who had this one on his list. So I've done a real weird thing with Fleetwood Mac, which is I lived way too long in classic rock land, and like a lot of what you get over there, Fleetwood Mac wise, is content from this record. And then out in Colorado, and I meet this couple, and they kind of like I was just kind of willy-nilly, and they sort of brought me in and looked after me a lot. It was really cute. But they introduced me to pre-Stevie Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, wow.
Which is so good. It's the British blues explosion. There's a couple of key, actually I still have my dubbed cassette copies. A London and a Chicago, and it just shredding. Just so good. And I fell in love with that, and I was like, well, then this fucking bitch shows up and ruins the whole. Now it's just, and it's one of the greatest selling, blah blah blah. And so,
hot take: I think Christina has a better voice than Stevie, and
Okay.
I know that's not a popular opinion, but
I mean,
Christina's voice is just so good.
I'm high-fiving you from this side of the table. School auction a couple years ago there's never-ending fundraisers in private school, Catholic private school land. Literally, you can be like nursing a hangover from the previous night, and somebody's like, "And you want to volunteer? You want to sign up for?" And it's just like, oh my god. So there's a silent auction and then a live auction. It's a huge deal. And the silent auction, you go around and bid on shit through an app, and you get notified if you get outbid. Well, there was a Taylor Swift, that record came from it, package, Bluetooth turntable, a Taylor Swift shirt, and like 5 records. And I was like, I had just enough booze in me to be like, I'm not losing that. And I didn't. Somebody at like 10:29 was like, "You've been outbid." I was like, "Fuck you." But point of the story is that I gave her the shirt. I kept the records. I told my boy, when I make the other third of this into a suitable homework table in his room, we'll put the Bluetooth turntable on there, and I'm going to start your vinyl collection by giving you a few key records from it. Thriller, Dark Side of the Moon, drawing a blank now, but this, I don't own this, but I will buy it specifically so that he has it early, and it's too important. There's too many good vibes.
Oh yeah. This album, I can see so clearly it's the weekend, and my mom has opened all the windows and she's like sprinkled down the carpet freshener before vacuuming and stuff. Like, this album was always playing. Like, we would be in the car and she'd have the windows down and we would be listening to this. I mean, again, I get so many different music tastes from my parents, and Fleetwood Mac was like one of the very few that was like a crossover that both of my parents loved this band. So
How did mom and dad cross paths initially?
They went to the same high school.
Okay. In the Northland or
Northeast.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
My dad dropped out his sophomore year of high school. My mom dropped out her senior year of high school.
Not a good look for Northlanders.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah. They got married super, super young.
Right.
And then for years, argued over, I'm ready to have a baby. I don't want to have a baby. Well, now I'm ready to have a baby. Well, no, I don't want to. And then I finally showed up, and I don't think they were still ready to have a baby.
You guys know I've been hearing you argue about me this whole time, right? Taking notes too, damn it.
Yeah. So I one of their songs was Leather and Lace by Stevie Nicks and Don Henley. Because it was very much like she was a preppy cheerleader, one of the popular girls. He came from a super broken home. He started drinking and smoking at a very, very young age. Went through a phase of like stealing cars as a teenager. An
adrenaline rush right there, I would imagine.
But what's funny is my dad was also like a D&D like super nerd who listened to Rush all the time and had long hair. His stepdad like would call him a gay slur because he was the scrawny kid with long hair that wanted to talk about dragons all the time.
Echoing in my skull.
Yeah,
with a tone.
But what's sad is like my dad was a really good artist, like drew like fairies and dragons, like mythical creatures and stuff for fun, and could have like totally done something with that, but he just had no drive. Like just wanted to always be the best there was without putting any effort into it.
Sure.
So I don't know how, like knowing both my parents, like how that happened. I think my mom just wanted the bad boy that she could fix.
Sure.
And it just didn't
just give me
happen.
a week.
Yeah.
Well, I
can fix them. I know I can.
That's cool. Okay, so their music. I skipped a whole section of questions in this thing, but so they meet high school. You guys are in the Northeast, only child. They are listening to music when you're a young person. Beside the list of records or albums that you gave me, is there one that stands out that was like a first love or a first borrow or bought with your own money, or not from the stuff that they were in, but when you first take that step and start your own thing, or you're too young, maybe it was digital or...
So the thing that stands out the most to me is I was not allowed to buy explicit content.
Sure.
So I had to always buy my CDs from Walmart because they always had clean versions.
Yeah.
Or
okay, so you were buying CDs. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I really, really wanted American Idiot by Green Day.
Oh, I know Dookie and Kerplunk.
Oh, Dookie's fantastic. So my dad, that's where my love for Green Day comes from, is my dad listened to Dookie all the time. But American Idiot came out, and I was watching the music videos on TV.
Sure.
And I was like, I have got to have this album. It was like the first time that I like started caring about political stuff and like people my age like talking back against people in authority. And so we go to Walmart, and they don't sell a clean version of American Idiot.
Like the band decided we're not going to press
Correct.
one.
And so we went to, what was FYE called before it was FYE? CD Warehouse?
Yes.
And they have the little stands where you can like put headphones
Sample
on.
it.
And,
Yeah.
And so they had American Idiot there, and my mom was like, okay, well, how bad is it? And the lady who worked there was super cool, and she was like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, I'll put it on one of these, and like you can listen to it and look through the lyrical or the like booklet.
Yeah.
And she tells my mom like, it's not that bad, and it's got cussing in it, and it's very like anti-authority and anti-government and talking back to people, which is polar opposite of how I was raised.
Yeah. punk rock.
Yeah. And my mom was like, no.
Oh.
And I was like, please. And she was like, it's so disrespectful. And I'm like, but like, it's just music.
Yeah.
Which, no, it wasn't just music.
I'm going to go to out-of-state college if you say no.
So she was like, okay, just don't repeat any of this stuff, because I wasn't allowed to cuss growing up.
Sure.
For the longest time, I wasn't even allowed to say butt as a kid. I had to say booty or rear end.
Bottom.
I couldn't say this sucks. Like,
right. Yeah.
very strict. So when I owned American Idiot, it just unlocked that next level for me, that this is like my first thing that is just my thing.
Yeah.
And I blasted the shit out of that album. I played it so loud in my room, and my mom would get so mad, and she'd be like, turn it down.
I believe I let you. What a mistake.
And my stepdad hated it too, because, you know, he comes from like that, like, respect your elders, like children should be seen, not heard era. And, you know, I'm singing as loud as I can this angry music. Same with Linkin Park. I remember when I got Hybrid Theory, and my mom was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so angry? And I'm just like, it makes me feel feelings. But that kind of music, neither of my parents got. And I loved that about that music.
Yeah.
That I finally, you know, I loved all this music that they loved. But then when I started branching into music that they didn't even like, that I loved, I was like, oh, this hits.
Right.
This hits different.
It's different. Yeah, that's funny. Concerts as a young person? Do you have a standout memory? Did you get to...
So while we're on Fleetwood Mac, I went and saw Fleetwood Mac when I was maybe 11, 12 years old. They were at Bartle Hall.
Cool.
It was a fantastic show.
I bet. I didn't know there was a venue for music in Bartle Hall.
Yeah. So my first like unofficial concert was Brian White during the what was the rodeo that we used to have here? Or Kemper Arena. Yeah. That's Kemper Arena is where I saw them.
Oh,
not
okay.
Bartle Hall. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good.
Kemper Arena. And whatever the rodeo that we used to have here, Brian White was like the featured musician. So that was like my first taste of concert.
Right.
My first concert ever was Rush with my dad, which is like one of my few good memories with him.
Do you remember what tour?
Oh.
Or what venue?
Sandstone or whatever it's called now. I will always call it Sandstone. Yeah.
Always.
If you said the name of the tour, I would know it. It was something like Maps or...
Oh, okay.
What was it?
Interesting.
But, yeah, that was a phenomenal show for a first concert.
I did bristle a little bit ago when you were saying D&D nerd. Oh, and listening to Rush, I was like, don't put those things. I mean, yeah, we know Rush fans. A lot of Rush fans are nerds, but let's at least pause for a breath before we go nerd Rush.
A bit in a good way.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
It's very mystical.
It's smart people rock.
Yeah, and seeing them play live, you always like think like, of course these people are making this music, but like getting to see it in person. And it was like such a stereotypical like first concert experience. Like at one point,
smoking weed.
Exactly.
Is there a skunk
I
in
was
the
like,
room?
ew, what is that smell? And my dad was like, shh. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's weed. And I was like, oh, that stinks. And he's like, will you be quiet and just be
Right.
cool?
Okay, Arliss.
Right. But yeah, that was a great first concert. But I want to talk about the Fleetwood Mac concert.
Yes.
So I was so excited to see this band that me and my mom like bonded over the years. And My mom was a huge concert goer.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like front row seats to like Paul McCartney.
Dang.
She got a rose from Bon Jovi at one point. She's got guitar picks from concerts.
Sure.
Like she would go to all these concerts because back in the day they were like $20 for front row seats. So
Yeah.
I mean, of course she went to all of them. So she takes me to Fleetwood Mac, and I think it's going to be this like amazing experience. And then we get done with the concert, and we notice the tour van or the tour bus. And my mom was like, well, you never know. And so there's a bunch of people lining like both sides to the bus, and there's a security guy there. And my mom was like, well, why don't we just stick around and see if we see them? And I'm like, oh, there's no way. And then all of a sudden, the band members come outside and they're going to the bus. And I loved Stevie Nicks. I knew who she was. I loved her like flowy clothes and her tambourine playing and how free spirited she was.
Gypsy woman.
Yes. Yeah. So I had this like bigger than God image of this woman already, and she was right in front of me. And so I reached my hands out. I'm like, Stevie, can I get your autograph? And she went, no, like right in my face. And it was just one of those never meet your hero moments, because I was expecting her to be like so soft, and this was before I realized that she had a very long-term drug problem, so she probably like wasn't in a good mood and didn't want some child reaching out and trying to grab her. But it's one of those moments where like you have these expectations of these celebrities, but they're people that don't want to be bothered sometimes, and that's okay. So that experience kind of set the tone for me, being like, just leave these people alone.
Yeah.
Like,
have you seen the South Park movie?
I have not.
You have? There's a scene where they're like, there's so much that happens in that movie, but near the end, there's a music festival or a concert or something, and the boys are like, oh, look, there's Stevie Nicks over on the stage. Doesn't she look great? And it pans over, and it's a goat. Singing.
I mean...
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. I need to jump in the restroom real quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we're getting there, I promise. Appreciate you. Okay, everything good?
Yeah.
All right. This thought just occurred to me that I meant to mention it earlier, but when we were talking, doing book signings and Casey Bookbeat, and you asking authors, is there an no, right? Mm-hmm. So this is 3 years and change of almost once a week episodes. Starts with family and friends and people that I know from the restaurant industry, and spilled into local musicians and venue owners, and I've had some photographers, and you might be the first actual author, which was again threads. There seems to be, have you seen on TikTok when people are like my FYP2 local? Mm-hmm. Like I feel like threads is very like a lot of anybody in Missouri, like just a lot of. So I saw you and made the connection that you were local, and I was like, oh, we'll see. Who knows? So I've kind of like a number of artists, but really most folks arts adjacent. I've gotten some folks from a lot of different lanes, except podcasters. Lots of people that are, oh yeah, and then they just vanish, or they make it certain part of the way through the whole message exchange and then vanish, or just never reply, period. And I'm like, why would we not want to,
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to me. Yeah. Like, there's only so much money for books to go around, Vanessa.
Right.
Like,
I know. I don't understand. And I'm sure it's an all around thing.
Right.
I feel, especially with women, we can't all get there at our own pace together, lifting each other up. There's like this animosity, like if they pick her, that automatically means they're not picking me.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like feeling like the only way you can climb to the top is by stepping on others. Like, I don't like that mindset.
Yeah.
When will this episode come out?
It'll be a couple weeks.
Okay. Well, because this is a time sensitive thing, I can't say anything yet, but I was nominated for Best Local Author through Kansas City Magazine, and they reached out to me and let me know that I won. So
cool.
June 1st is when the issue comes out for that.
Oh, okay.
But during that whole nomination period, I had friends saying like, oh, well, I looked at the other people's books and yours is the only good one. I'm like, don't be like that. Like, I don't like that.
I did manage to throw a pity vote your way just because I felt, no. That's weird.
Yeah. Weird. I don't, and especially because there's so many different genres too. Like, I've been at so many events where people buy my books or they don't buy my books, and they're like, do you have historical fiction? I don't, but I know an author who's just over there and she does have historical fiction. It doesn't hurt anything for me. She wasn't going to buy my books anyways, so why not point them to someone who will make a sale?
Yeah.
Like, I have no issue with that.
Yeah, and there's so many folks that I have known in weird different ways over the years have had books come out, and it's like, if I see that on Facebook or whatever, like, I'm buying that shit, and really, like, there's a little bit of selfishness in it, but it's a very small minority. Like, the most of me just wants to support you. Like, that's really cool. Congratulations that you won. That's really awesome. But this is also really freaking awesome. And I want to support that. I don't know you from, whatever, but good for you. I want to support that. On the selfish part, I hope that there are other folks out there that want to do the same. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll come to your house and sit in your basement as a perfect stranger for 2.5 hours, and that's support. This I can't do this without guests, right? So when there's plenty of stuff that you see going around on social media where it's like addressing haters, and it's like, if they're acting a certain way, it's because they want what you have, or there's a thing like that in their life that's not go. So whenever somebody's like that, I'm like, well, what's going on with you? Like, what? I wouldn't mind helping you try to write that a little bit, like, why you want to sit there in that negative energy and just be that way?
Which is honestly the best thing to come out of Casey Bookbeat, is it's turned around this whole narrative of, I'm in my corner doing my thing, you stay in your corner, do your thing. And now, like, we're planning casual, like, social get-togethers where we just, like, hang out and we don't have to worry about, because at most book events, you get there, you set up your table, the event starts, and then you don't get a chance to socialize with the other authors. Yeah. And everybody always talks about, like, I wish we had more time to just shoot the shit.
Right.
And so I'm getting ready to start planning some, like, not book events, just we meet up at one of the local, like, restaurants or bars or coffee houses or something like that, and we can all just talk, and it doesn't even have to be book related. We could just be like, yeah, my preteen sucks. Like,
Yeah, I mean, they're to the age now, and I've already started a little bit this summer, where they really need to be doing chores. I was doing them, way too many of them, way too young, in my opinion, it gave me a big, nice skill set of I can keep a house afloat, like, in all the ways. But also, we'll get you there, but be a kid for now.
Yeah.
So their, especially her, perpetual victimhood stems from the fact that before they can have screen time, then there's no screen time during the week when school's in session. So on the weekends, and then now it's if you want to have screen time, you got 2 at minimum things that you have to do, and they are practice the piano and read. And it's like, yeah, so no, I don't have historical fiction, but so and so down there does. And really, of all the ick out there, like reading is not a thing that we should let fade. But it has the potential to sort of do that.
For sure.
I know that there will always be avid readers out there, but reading in general amongst people, I feel like happened a lot more when I was younger. I don't know.
Oh, I constantly have people that will, like, especially like at places like Comic-Con that is not a book event. And you try and get people to be like, hey, what kind of books do you like reading? And they'll go, I don't read. And then just keep walking. And you're like, that's very unfortunate for you.
Yeah.
And there's still like cliques within the book community. Like, I've talked about like the romance books, which, has been deemed like smut. And it's a popular genre, and you can't fight what people want. Yeah. That is what the majority wants. Yeah. And there will always be like people who make comments like, well, of course she sold the most books because she writes smut. But like, you can't be like that though. Like, if that is the popular genre and this author is good at that genre, be happy for them that they did well at this event. Yeah. Don't make it about you that you didn't do as well as her right. because she's killing it.
Yeah. I did want to give shouts out to my buddy Adam Boyd all the way back in episode 13 who had Tusk on his list, which followed this. And I was all the way back then, I was like, good. You make me listen to a Fleetwood Mac record? Thanks, buddy. And I put it on. I was like, oh, shit, this is kind of good.
It's so good.
And it followed this one up, and, it made me look at this one with a different perspective than just, the hits and the record-breaking sales and so on and so forth. So,
Never Going Back Again is my favorite Fleetwood Mac song. Songbird and Dreams I sing at least once a week because I sing bedtime songs to our youngest.
Nice.
And a lot of the stuff that I sing is classic rock, ballads type stuff. So like he knows Fleetwood Mac, he knows Elton John. I sing "Mama, I'm Coming Home" by Ozzy Osbourne sometimes to him. Like he's already like a well-rounded music kid, and I love that.
That's great. So also want to give shouts out to Steph Rupp from episode 50. She designed my logo and built my website and said absolutely not when I asked if she wanted to do an interview or an episode. And at the time, there was one piece, the piece that she handled every week was putting everything on the website. Like, I get it to where it needs to go for audio streaming. I put it on YouTube. I write the bio and compile the art, send it all to her. And she eventually, I think, was like, that's enough of you can do it. And I was like, I don't want to. And she's like, I'm going to charge you a little bit more. I was like, fine, I'll do it. Jesus Christ. But she, I don't know, 35, 40 episodes in one day, so I'm kind of thinking maybe I will do one. I was like, what? Cool. Right on. She has The Black Parade, My Chemical Romance, on her list, which is from 2006. Only 3 of 4, 14 tracks, 51 minutes. Liverpool to London to New Jersey. This record, plus a lot of other stuff on her list, it caught me off guard in that it was heavier than I was expecting. And I was like, what's that all about? And it was the very thing that when you and your mom are with the employee trying to buy that Green Day record, and why would you like it? And you're like, it makes me. And she was like, I don't know, but I do get all. And then I feel better after. Mm-hmm. And I was like, huh. So I don't imagine like rumors and Abbey Road coming down the pipes to you from stepdad makes sense. I don't bet that this one did.
This was a me music.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like after American Idiot, so I had started finding my own music. I wanted to be an emo kid so badly, but my mom wouldn't let me wear makeup. So I would get to school and my friend Lisa would let me borrow her black eyeliner. I'd slap on as much as I could at the beginning of the day. And then last class of the day, I would go to the bathroom and try and get as much of it off as I could before going home. And I was like really big into Fall Out Boy.
Oh my God, she had a Fall Out Boy record on her list as well.
There was something about when I saw My Chemical Romance for the first time, and Gerard Way had all the eyeliner on, and the first song I saw by them was I'm Not Okay. And just as a kid, seeing someone say like how you feel, and as an adult, you're like, oh, you think you have problems now, but just wait. But in the moment, you're like, adults suck and everything sucks, and I'm so
keeping
mad.
All the fun out of our reach.
And the song Teenagers on this album, it's so funny because I went from being one to now as an adult, I'm getting ready to start raising one. And the whole teenagers scared the living shit out of me. Now as an adult, I'm like, they really do, because they think they know everything. They don't know shit, but you can't tell them anything. They've got to just figure it out on their own. So just go off and be crazy and be angsty and hate me for a couple of years if you have to, and then chill out. And
I'd prefer if you put a ceiling on that couple.
Yeah.
Let's not have it become few and then several.
Right. But what's funny is for the longest time, I always skipped the song Cancer on this album because, it's a slow song and it didn't do anything for me as a kid listening to this album. And then when my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2010, I'm someone who just really goes into how I feel about something so I can feel it and then feel better afterwards, like with the whole anger situation.
Yeah.
So I would watch movies about cancer and I would listen to sad songs about people dying and stuff because I was like, okay, if something happens to her, I already know how it's going to make me feel. I know that feeling is valid because there are songs and movies and books about it. And cancer actually ended up being one of the inspirations for Emma's story in Great Divide.
Okay.
And so it's a funny kind of full circle of the one song on this album that I would always skip over is the one song that actually has long-term stuck with me from this album.
Love that.
Yeah.
Favorites for 20 years on this record, and then one day holy shit, I've been skipping this? It's beautiful. It's a fun thing.
What's weird is we've seen them twice, and they do Cancer for their encore. And I think it still to this day is such an odd choice to finish this punk rock
it's
loud, with this somber, slow song about cancer. And I'm like,
thank you guys. We never really meant to be punk rock.
Yeah.
He just comes out
by
himself,
yeah.
does it, and then the show's over.
Yeah. Huh. It's such a bizarre choice, but
both times?
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. So just a few years down the road from that, my head is an animal of Monsters and Men. First of 3, 11 tracks, 51 minutes, Liverpool, London, Jersey to Iceland for some indie folk rock. I wish that I could say that every song on every record, on every list, I give undivided attention, but oftentimes I'm taking notes at the same time, or if I'm really in a pinch driving and trying to put something in a note on my phone at a stoplight or whatever. So I was right out of the gate, I was like, I like this. And I'm like, I really like this. And then I'm like, these guys are giving me like Lumineers kind of feel, and like I feel like I've been here before. And then I got to what is it? Little Talks. I was like, oh shit, I know these guys.
Yeah.
But it's like 7 or 8 or 9 tracks deep into it. What's your why did this one earn a spot on your list?
So this album came out in 2012, the year that our oldest was born. I had severe postpartum depression
Really?
when I had him. At the time, we didn't know. My husband thought I was just being a crazy bitch for no reason. And fair, like totally valid, because I was.
Yeah.
I disliked my husband. I disliked this baby that I
did
just
this to me.
Yeah, I mean, so my pregnancy with him was not fun. I had all day morning sickness for almost my entire pregnancy. I lost 20 pounds before I actually started gaining anything with him. Was super pregnant in the middle of a record-breaking heat wave.
Fun.
We lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was
times for everyone.
miserable. I did not have this like beautiful, glowy, like sunshine and butterflies pregnancy that like you always see like in movies.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's always depicted as like, oh, you're beautiful, and I'm like sweating like a pig and dry heaving nonstop. And it was like brushing my teeth made me sick, driving in the car made me sick, taking a shower made me sick. Like everything was a trigger for whatever was wrong with me. So, record-breaking heat wave. Literally the night I was in labor with him, we had this storm that broke the heat wave. And I was like, of course. I like went through this entire pregnancy, and now the weather decides to
I thought for a minute you were nervous about getting to the hospital in the storm.
No, I was
You were
already
like,
there. Like I was already there in labor. I was in active labor all night. It was awful. He wasn't budging, did not want to come out. And I was so exhausted by the time he finally arrived. I had planned on breastfeeding, and I was just so over him already. And I know it sounds terrible,
He's
but
like, I'm going to get you back for this in 13 years.
Yeah, right. So like I nixed the whole wanting to breastfeed as soon as he came out, because I was like, can you start helping? I've done so much for 9 months. Can you feed him, because I've got to try and sleep. And so from the get-go, it was like he was a terrible sleeper.
Oh boy.
We had to like pace our tiny apartment holding him so he would sleep. We worked opposite shifts basically. He worked at a restaurant till like 2:00 in the morning, and then I had to be at the daycare that I worked at 6 in. So we didn't see each other that much.
Again,
30 minutes.
Again, kudos that you're still here together,
yeah.
right?
And all of our arguments at the time were who got more sleep than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was like our currency at the time, was I'm so exhausted all the time because this kid just does not sleep, and he spit up all the time, and he was our huge blowout baby, would like
Up
shit
the back?
up to his hairline.
How?
Yes, and he was just such a miserable little thing. And on the other side of it, we should have done more, but again, we were young parents who thought we knew everything. And I was like, well, I've worked in childcare, so I know how to take care of a baby.
Of course.
And it's so different when you're with it all the time.
Yeah.
But I was to the point where I would put him in his little rocker bed thing and prop his bottle up so I didn't have to hold him.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want him touching me. I was constantly touched out. I
thought you were going to try and steal a couple minutes of shut-eye.
No, I was
Just didn't want him to touch you.
we were playing Skyrim at the time. That was kind of the priority. So if I could get him to prop the bottle up and eat while I could like get some video game time in, I'm telling you, like we sucked. We were still, because we were the first out of our friends to get married. We were the first out of our friends to have a baby. So like all of our friends were like, oh, you hang out with your baby all the time. Come hang out with us. And so stupid looking back on it now. But like we had either his mom or my mom watching our newborn so we could go hang out with our friends.
I mean, you guys
because
are
we
in
were
your
worried about
early 20s.
Yeah, we were worried about losing our friends
You're
instead
not
of
even close to stepping out of that selfless.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So this album came out, and most of the songs are these little like mystical stories, like kind of almost gives me same vibes as Rush. Like you get lost in this story that's going on in this song, and it takes you to this like other place away from reality. But Little Talks really hit me, and every time that song would come on, I would just start bawling my eyes out because
Dang.
it was some days I can't even dress myself. It kills me to see you this way. The lines in that song were what I was going through at the
Sure.
time. Like I hated how I felt about my family. Like, because disliking your husband and your baby is not how you want to feel. And I just felt so crazy all the time. And I was like, there's something wrong with me. And come to find out years later, talking to my therapist, he was like, oh, you definitely had postpartum depression and zero support from anybody. Because,
right.
my mom would just be like, oh, it's the baby blues. Like, everybody gets them. It's just because your life is changing and you're tired. Like, shouldn't have had a baby if you didn't want to not sleep.
Whatever.
Yeah. And then, again, us being so young, Kyle didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with it. And my friends that I tried to talk to, none of them had kids. So they're like, I don't know what your problem is, but you either need to like start being cool or I don't want to be friends anymore. And then slowly but surely, I started losing friends.
Damn. Okay.
Because I was not in a good headspace. And then I had a baby on top of it.
Where was the apartment?
At the time, Independence.
Independence.
Yeah.
All right. Fuck
Yeah.
that town.
Yeah. Yeah. So this album got me through that really hard phase in my life.
Nice. I love
Just
that.
because it was an escape, and then Little Talks specifically like was everything I was feeling in the moment. And I don't know what the song is actually supposed to be about, but like it really felt like it was a conversation that me and him were supposed to be having at the time that
cool.
like just wasn't happening,
That's great. We had a DO, doctor of osteopathy, as it's at St. Joe, and it was like the only non-MD, and she was like, that we liked that because there's a little less rigidity to the whole approach. And about halfway, she's like, good news and bad news. The good news is everything checked out, right? The way it's supposed to, health of you and the babies. The bad news is I'm moving to Minneapolis in like 2 weeks. And we're like, oh, okay. Which at first was like, but also first time parent, you're like, we'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. Like we have bigger fish to fry, like, but what ended up happening is we went midwife route with a doula, and next thing you know, we're gonna cloth diaper, and we're gonna and dehydrate the placenta and encapsulate it, and I'm on board with all of it until the cloth diapering. I didn't have the sprayer like there. I didn't have it purchased or attached by the time the baby arrived. So for the first like couple of weeks, I'm literally like dunking these things in toilet water and just fucking god awful.
Yep.
Get the sprayer, like holy shit, I can't believe I was doing that for however. And there's we're using borax instead of detergent, and the extra spin cycle, and okay, and then where I hit a wall, she's like, I really think we should be line drying all of the inserts, and I was like, fuck off, like this is way too much, like, but point is, at 4:00. For 2 months, every day, here's the I mean, like, and to the bedroom, sometimes for 2 hours, sometimes till like 10:30, asleep and fucking bumming. And she took placenta pills, and it helped. Like, it seemed like it helped, and she also was saying back, and I was like, I can't imagine what it would have been like without those, because this is like, it's all manageable. We're doing fine, but it feels like every moment is a slippery slope kind of situation where we could plummet into some dark. And then since then, or not too terribly long after, we did the same for when he was born, and then took one of each capsule and had him turned into liquid. So if they have the sniffles or whatever, a little droplet, and then they're supposed to be helpful for her cycle, and then when her mom is going through menopause. I mean, it's like really nuts to think about. You always hear, oh, there's so many nutrients in the placenta. Confirmed, right? It's weird. Like,
yeah, it's just like this big blob of life, like everything you need to create life. Like,
yeah. And she wound up preeclamptic, which was kind of crazy. The second time we were like very proactively trying to do things dietarily and exercise wise. So, but at the last second, boom, popped up again. The first time, but he was born here, in my bedroom.
wow.
Yeah, it was insane. Midwife and doula, and 10 adults could have gotten in this pool. And I'm like, how do we know, guys? How do we know the floor joist will support the weight of this much water?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I'm like, just keep picturing, crashing through. But what was I gonna say? He was
born here.
He was born here. Oh, so she was born at the hospital, and because of the preeclampsia, somebody like literally, because our doula was running the room, like telling people what to do, kicking people out. I was like, I cannot imagine what we would be doing without you here. But somebody literally snuck in and like took the placenta and then she figured out that it was gone, and she went, and they were like, no, we're sending that to labs for testing. And she was like, and she just went through, went away, and now somebody new is she come, hey, I need to get the placenta. And finally some person was like, I'm not supposed to give you this. Take it and go down out the back, like the fire escape stair. I mean, like, snuck out of there with the placenta that
belongs to your wife
anyway.
anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, this feels like it could be illegal or something.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Anyway, I love that story. That's a really good one. All the way to 2020, bringing it home with Miss Swift herself.
This is so
folklore.
hard. I knew I wanted a Taylor Swift album in this lineup, and it was so hard to pick which one.
Okay.
This one is just, again, I love storytelling in songs, and this one just felt like it had the most like stories. Like, I know a lot of people listen to her radio hits and they're like, oh, that's catchy. And yeah, they're fun and they're not bad, but like her writing is so good, and I think it gets overlooked because she does write stuff like Shake It Off,
right.
And like it's fun, and like her earlier stuff like Love Story and the like easy pop stuff is still good, but this album has so many good stories in it. Exile is such a good song. That dual point of view storytelling, that one obviously hit close to home because we've been close to being in that situation where we're not together anymore, and like hearing his and her point of view of going through that is just so good. And Bon Iver's on that song too, and I mean, come on, he's got such a great voice.
He's got a great voice. I know shit about him, but
right,
still,
yeah. But Invisible String is one of the songs that actually inspired Temporarily Forever.
Cool.
Because all along there was this invisible string tying you to me, and her writing is just so good. Again, it was so hard to pick which album of hers, but I ultimately went with this one.
I will say, most of my high school buddies we're on a text thread, and it's sometimes like this is out of control because it's just too much. Especially during football season, just and this tweet and this reel and this TikTok, and it's like I have fucking shit. What are you guys doing? Do you guys have jobs? Like, but two guys, one's in LA and one's in Halifax, said independently that folklore was huge for them and their families during pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, got them through it. And I was like, what? And at that point, I was still pretty fresh. I hadn't even I know that Lover was my starting point, and I was like, well, I have to go back now and start and work. So I hadn't gotten so I was like, and then when I finally did, I was like, oh.
And see, I've been on it since day one. Me and her are the same age.
Oh my.
And so when her country stuff, when she first emerged, I was like, there's someone my age doing this. And that kind of helps with the whole wanting to be an author thing, because it's one thing to see like some 30-year-old, some 40-year-old like who is successful, and you're like, well, of course they've been around forever, and I'm just a 16-year-old that like wants to do this big thing, but it just seems impossible. And then you see someone your age doing the big things and continuously like reinventing herself.
Right.
And especially her demeanor towards people who dislike her is so respectable.
Absolutely.
And it again, like I feel like I grew up along with her. I don't have this like celebrity worship feeling towards her, but like I have so much respect for her.
I've got a few series in this thing. One is Wu-Tang 101, where I'm trying to like work. That's 80 records. Work through that whole thing. One's a discography series, so somebody will do the whole. We've done it like a Tom Waits episode, for example. Anyway, there's a Becoming a Swiftie series that's got 4 or 5 parts to it, but from day one, it's like it will be spelled with a Y, because we don't just get to throw plural and singular rules out the window for the sake of. And the first gal that did one of those with me, she's like, they're gonna come for you, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm right here. No, but yeah, there's a lot of good ones in her catalog. Great list though. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, music's always been. I'm not musically talented at all.
Sure,
but music always inspires me, like especially with my writing. Great Desolation came from the song Desolation Row.
Okay.
The My Kim cover, but I have playlists on Spotify for all my books.
Nice.
I'm always moved by music, and I absolutely love when I have a scene in one of my books and I can hear a song going
That's
with
super,
that
super
scene.
cool.
It just, music is so transformative.
Yeah. Did we want to give shouts out to your the edit that you made? I think Abbey Road initially was not on there.
Oh, yeah, Nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, one of the things that came from my dad, I can remember headbanging in the living room to Nirvana. I'm a huge Nirvana fan. Again, the writing is just so good. And I have a lot of Nirvana on my playlist for my books. Like,
cool. Including stuff from Bleach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's why that dark shit she keeps coming up.
Yep.
Putting that record on. Okay. Quick series of goofy questions, and then we'll wrap and get you out of here.
All right.
Okay. First one is, you get to have coffee with anyone of your choosing, dead or alive. Who are you choosing and why?
I'm going to say Stephen King and hope that I can get to the point where, I mean, if coffee's involved, I will inevitably start talking just because I'm like caffeinated. But I would love to not even say a word to him, just listen to him. Like, I don't even like have to talk to him.
Right.
I would just love to sit across from him, sip on my coffee, and have him tell me literally whatever he wants to talk
Goose.
about.
Yeah. Just give me it all.
Yeah.
Good answer. If we can pretend or imagine that we all have a personal and a professional bucket list, you're given all the necessary resources to go knock out your number one on each of those. What are those number ones?
Personal would be to move to Colorado.
Where?
Colorado.
Where?
Oh, Colorado. Either Manitou Springs or Estes Park, because we both love those like small town. I mean, I would rather say
that's after freshman year at Pitt State.
Oh,
My high school buddy that was going to the Art Institute, he was like, we should go get summer jobs at the Y in Estes Park. And I was like, cool. And then I didn't come back. And I stayed and took a year off. When people take a year off, the chances of fucking just a little bit of support. Got in state and then moved to Durango and went to finished my undergrad at Fort Lewis.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I always want to know where in Colorado because like I've spent a good chunk of time out there. And
I would probably most likely want to live more in Manitou Springs just because Estes Park gets the like heavy snowfall. But oh my God, it's so beautiful. Yeah. We went up there, just me and Kyle one time, and we had a Kia Soul at the time. And as we were driving into Estes Park, it was blizzarding like a motherfucker. And it was the scariest drive I have ever been on.
Coming up from Boulder on 36
yeah.
and all the windy.
Yeah. Oh, it was so scary. And I wanted to like get the picture.
Death right down there.
Yeah. I wanted to get the picture of the Estes Park sign and you couldn't even like see it because it was snowing so hard. And we got to our cabin and got blizzarded in and the power went out and we were like, oh, our vacation is going to suck. And literally
But they might make a movie out of it one day.
And literally the next morning we go outside and all the roads and sidewalks are completely cleared off. And we were like, it snows 3 inches here and takes a week.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Hope you have food.
Yeah.
See ya.
The way they handle snow there versus how we handle so much less snow here.
Dude, there's like if you take Trail Ridge Road through the park, Rocky Mountain National Park, I mean, there are like 24-foot sticks so that the plows can know where the road is when they're trying to remove that snow.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then when we stayed in Estes Park, we stayed at the Stanley the last night we were there. And I loved it and I hated it because I experienced things and my husband, who doesn't believe in ghosts at all, would not wake up every time I was like, something's touching me. Our closet door just opened on its own. He's like, I have a 10-hour drive tomorrow. Let me sleep. And I told him the next day all the stuff happened. And he was like, it did not. It was just your imagination. That's why you're a writer. Like, you have this vivid imagination. And I'm like, you can't make up something touching your leg. Like, it... Who invited you here?
Right.
But I love Colorado so much.
You want to move there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I want to permanently live in Colorado eventually.
That's personal. What's your professional?
I would like to be able to start touring and doing book signings outside of Missouri and eventually at least go to England and do a book signing there. Because one, I have a book that takes place in England. Also, one of my street team members, who I adore so much, Tony, she lives in England. And she is constantly like, are you at to the point yet where you can come here? And I'm like, I wish.
I'll tell you. Stop asking.
Yeah.
That's cool. You're given the ability to visit your past self at any age of your choosing. What age are you choosing and what are you saying?
Probably junior year of high school me. I would tell myself, don't take AP U.S. history.
Smart.
And kids who can take those AP classes in high school, kudos.
More power to you.
But I took AP US history in high school and got a D, which I was an academic kid, so getting a D crushed me.
Sure.
And then I took US history in my first year of college, which was supposed to be the exact same thing, right? So much easier. Like, doing it in college was such a different experience than the class that they had high schoolers taking. So I would tell myself, don't take it so seriously. Have fun.
Have math and science always come easy to you?
No.
Okay, same. I mean, literally beyond like basic operations. I'm like, why do we care about this X and Y?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hammer out a pretty good novel over here, and you keep trying to make me learn things beyond biology.
Yeah, I never got a degree because I couldn't pass a certain level of math in college, and I'm like, this is such a waste of time because I don't want to do anything that involves math. And you can sit there and say like, "Well, you use math every single day." Not that kind of math.
Nah. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. I got those. What else?
And now phones even have percentages to help you with that. So I mean,
Fear Factor. You remember this program? It's like early
Joe Rogan
reality
before
TV.
He became Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, and you win a prize for enduring the grossest whatever coffin full of spiders. This is not that. This is real life. You're at point A, point B's over here. Your biggest heebie-jeebie willies creeps is in the middle, and you got to get through it. What is it?
Snakes would be involved. Birds. I'm really freaked out by birds.
In general?
There's some, like, I like hummingbirds and I enjoy birds from a distance.
Sure.
But like, we just went to Florida and I couldn't 100% enjoy being on the beach because the seagulls freaked me out.
They're ballsy too.
Yeah, they just like
Damn.
scream at you and get super close, and they don't respect my personal space, and I don't like something yelling at me.
Right.
But I just recently saw this video of this woman and this bird like dives and like its beak goes almost into her eyeball. Like it would have poked her eyeball out, but it got it just at the right angle, totally unprovoked. And I'm like, people need to like be more aware of how scary birds can be.
They are a trip for
Yes.
sure. For sure. And I will never watch that. The birds.
Yeah.
Like fuck.
Yeah.
I see the movie poster. I'm like, I know what's going on in there. I don't need to go see that.
Yeah, it is not a fun movie. I do not like that movie. So yeah, snakes, birds, driving. Like if they made me drive, that would probably be part of something. I really honestly didn't think I was that bothered by heights until we went to World of Fun last year and I got on the Steelhawk and I passed out on the Steelhawk. So apparently to some degree,
Wow.
heights do bother me. So something involving that would probably be involved.
I mean, some of these, you have the one, I don't know where this stuff is, so pardon my ignorance, but you have the one bridge that 2/3 of the way across the body of water, it just goes underground.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like some ones in Asia that are like 11 billion feet in the air.
With the glass floor.
Winding and shit. Like, you see who's driving? Like, why would you? Anyway, it's terrifying. Last but not least, please complete this for me. The world would immediately become a better place in which to live if only
people thought about each other more often.
Amen.
I think empathy has gone out the window at this point. I used to say it was lacking, but I just think it's non-existent as a whole. Not to get like super hippy dippy kumbaya, but I mean, it's really not that hard to take a second and be like, how is what I'm doing affecting someone else? I see
problem is that you do have to take that second.
Yeah, and I see it everywhere. I mean, like I said, we just went on a trip to Florida. We went to Universal Studios, and like the blatant just disregard of people around you and being aware of like you stopping and going like this when there's
100.
someone. Yeah.
Airport behavior.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. But and it's everywhere in all walks of life, because my kids will come home and tell me about the way kids are at their school, and I'm like, again, we talked about like kids are mean, and that's one thing, but like, you know that they're getting that behavior from their home life.
Yeah, that's anytime I see piece of shit behavior, I'm like, I wish I had your parents' phone number, even if it's an adult. You know, I just want to. Even if they're no longer here, I just want to put it out there that you did a shitty job.
Yeah, you screwed up.
Sorry that probably the people that were raising you also did a shitty job, but you didn't successfully improve in the generational gap there.
Yeah. And my only hope is maybe at some point those kids have a shift, because I unfortunately grew up in a household where I heard a lot of like, this certain group of people are taking our jobs, and this certain group of people's like feeding off the government, so I have to work harder, and I don't like these people because they get away with this kind of stuff. And I don't know what happened to me, but I'm glad it did, because I just don't have
awareness. Probably happened and other things, some sympathy. So is that a fox on your what's that ink?
This one is from The Little Prince. It's my favorite children's book, and I've read it to both of my boys. And so this is the prince in the book, and the rose that's a big part of the story, and then there's a fox in it.
Super. Whoever did that is good.
My tattoo artist is amazing. Shout out to Joey Smith.
I didn't realize until very late in our conversation what was happening lyrically on your other arm.
Yes.
There is a picture in my senior year yearbook. Now, my best friend took it because that was the assignment. But I'm in my room, which is where I was often at my desk, and my sort of mountain of cassettes are in front of me, and I've got the liner notes open to a cassette, and I'm reading it, and he snapped the picture. So it's very staged, but it's also very, very real. So senior year, I graduated in 93. So around this time that I'm like downloading and mainlining and ingesting all this classic rock, Full Moon Fever comes out, and this place was once at 75th and Metcalf. It's a Dunkin' Donuts now. But it's the first record store I ever, literally to my aunt, what is it? It's Peaches. Yeah, but what is, she's a record store. I'm like, she's like, yeah, I'll take you in there someday. And I went in there. And then it became Sound Warehouse, and then it became CD Warehouse. And then I don't know, but it's a Dunkin' Donuts now. But I would, as soon as I had babysitting money, whatever, I would ride my bike to Sound Warehouse and buy as many cassettes as I could afford. And the plastic bag would swing on my bike ride home, to the point where a couple times I broke the cassette the case. But somewhere in that stage of life, Full Moon Fever came out, and I bought it, and I was like, what the fuck? This is the same guy that Don't Do Me Like That, all the old school Tom, like, this is incredible. And that was a Tom Petty album, and the follow-up to it was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Holy shit, I'm drawing a blank. It's blue. Full Moon Fever, Into the Great Wide Open. Jeez, amazing. Like, I was like, Full Moon Fever, get this garbage out of here. And I was like, this dude should retire right now, because you can't
top it.
Wildflowers comes out. I was like, my mistake.
Yeah.
This is not, I mean, it's lots of musicians have died in my years learning about music and listening to it, and every story is different, but that one still stings. Like,
I never got to see him in concert, and
I didn't either.
Hurts
I mean, I probably had the opportunity and didn't take it. But there was a gal on here who called him her ghost dad, and she was like, she's still very, I don't think she's walked the straight and narrow like her whole. She's very young, like she was doing 50 different things at the time that I discovered her while finishing college, and she was like, and when I finish, I'm moving to Ireland because my boyfriend lives there, and that's where we're gonna start life. I'm just just lining shit up and knocking it down. I was like, dude, I literally got none of that, and you're just crushing it. But so she got a job as a host for a minute in a restaurant, and like dudes also frequent restaurants and work in restaurants, and she, I think very quickly and very often had to figure out how to deal with the fact that dudes are dudes sometimes, and they can be gross. And she was like, in one situation, she was like afraid for her own safety, but a Tom Petty record like got her to safety. And
that's awesome. I know when I was prepping, like trying to figure out a list for you, I was like, can I cheat and say like Tom Petty's greatest hits, Queen's greatest hits, David Bowie's greatest hits?
I would have been like, yeah, that's fine. On the inside, I've been like, what a
I
disappointment.
know.
I'm not reading any of her books. Fucking bullshit. At Vanessa Kramer author on all the socials, vanessakramerauthor.com. Great Divide, Great Desolation, My Mother's Spirit, Temporarily Forever are all on the non-Amazon places called
bookshop.org.
Bookshop.org. And I've already forgotten the next great Devotion.
Yes.
Is coming soon to a theater near you.
Yeah, hopefully November is what I'm shooting for.
Okay.
So.
Like in people's hands?
Yeah.
That's like tomorrow.
It feels like it. I just dropped the cover reveal, so.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Any other plugs?
If you're in the Kansas City area, come to one of the KC Book Beat events.
Book Beat, yes.
Kansas City is quickly becoming like a hub for the book community. We have so many talented authors in the area. We have so many cool indie bookstores in the area. Special shout out to Red and Rooted in Blue Springs. Cassie, who owns it, has been my ride or die in my authorhood.
Shouts out to Cassie.
Yeah, she always wants to do my release parties at her shop.
Cool.
It's a book and plant store. So I love it there. It's right by my house. So it, really hones into that community aspect. So
right on. Anything that you had hoped that we would cover that we did not?
No, we covered like way more than I was expecting.
We've been here for a minute.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Hopefully we caught most of it.
I'm just glad you didn't ask me any like actual like musical. Like I thought I was gonna have to know.
Oh God, no.
Anything about music, like from like
That's interesting that you say that. This is not a thing. It's not for everybody. But in the very beginning, like getting no's, like what? Like what? Do people think I'm just a dick? Like, and it's some people. I don't want to be on the internet. Some people. I'm not cut from that music cloth where I can sit there and. I was like, it's not a contest, and we don't like. Nobody emerges a winner by knowing more or experience. It's just like, who are you? Like, what are you into? What?
I will say that is another reason why I brought him along with me, because he was in a band and he is a musician. So if you asked me any music related questions, I'd be like, can I phone a friend?
What's the band?
Sorry.
Is it still not?
No.
It's been for forever.
We had a baby, remember? Nobody wants to be in a band with a guy with a baby.
Right.
Band was already falling apart.
That's true.
A little bit prior to that, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it did. I had a.
But you mentioned Guitar Center.
Yeah, so I do work for Guitar Center in their repairs department. I'm
Oh.
a photographer, so I take pictures of all the used gear that then we repurpose and repair and then put back on the website.
So we're scheduling your episode when?
Sure, I'll do it. I haven't
He
seen
will
music
be
in
an
forever.
interesting person to talk about
Okay.
music with because he hates most music, and the 5 things he loves, he loves.
In particular,
Yes.
Fair enough.
I'm annoyingly fickle.
Fair
Yes.
enough. Now, if this actually comes to fruition, will you be in that seat, or will you be like, have fun?
No, I'll be here to roast him as needed.
Yeah, you do have a job to do, don't
Yeah.
you? Oh, man. Thank you, guys. It's very nice to meet you,
Nice meeting you.
Vanessa Kramer, and congratulations on all the hard work that you've put in and the current-ish accolades and the ones yet to come.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.